But the online, I mean, they don't know how to use iPad when they come to school, and then you test them on the computer. It's hard for kindergarten and first grade.
You have to see my granddaughter. She's 2 years old with the computer. It is amazing.
Does she have siblings though?
Yes.
I mean, that's, if you have an older child, if they come in, they don't have any siblings, that might be.
Yeah, but my point is, they can learn.
Oh, they can learn, but
sometimes they're
making them listen and do is very hard.
Sometimes they can even teach us.
Oh, yeah.
How to use the computer. Okay, number 2, let's think about it. Can I have someone read that for you, please?
Integrate family engagement strategies with students learning and developing goals.
Okay, so we're gonna create a plan. After we learn how to do it, we're going to create a plan, and we're going to integrate our family engagement strategies. Okay, something that works for our family. And last one.
Articulate steps to support families to take action at home.
Okay, so that is going to be part of our plan. All right. So our agenda for today. We're going to do the welcome right now, then we're going to share our homework.
Which was not really homework because, you know, it's back-to-back days. We're going to make it actionable.
Yeah, so the homework that we're going to do here today. And we're going to connect family engagement to students learning with the plan that we're going to create. And we're going to put everything together. So those are were our norms that we created. Is there anything that you guys think that we should add today?
I just want to give you guys kudos because you have been so transparent, respectful for one another, and really kind of shared what's on your heart. So thank you for that. That's a hard thing to do in a setting like this. So you guys hit the ground running with that, and we really do appreciate it.
And we couldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Like yesterday we were like, oh my God, they're so good. Like we were really happy with your conversations and the way you guys are like putting all your senses and your heart and into the conversations and learning. So it was, we're leaving super happy. And we're sure that you guys are going to do a great job when you go back to your schools. All right. So we decided to change these. We're not going to do the opening activity that it was designed to be done today. But I would like to explain the way it goes because this is something that you can probably do with your parents as an icebreaker. So what you do is you create 2 circles. So one circle with people, like you can number your people in your audience 1 and 2. Number 1 is going to make a circle, it's going to be the inner circle. And then number 2s are going to be outside. Then you play some music and then people start walking in different directions until you stop the music and then you pose a question. And when people is doing this kind of ice-breaking activity, questions should be something that they're going to have fun, like nothing really, something easy, like what is your favorite food, what is your favorite restaurant?
I wouldn't bring up politics.
No.
I know.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color? Sorry.
Those kinds of
Keep it light.
ice-breaking questions is what really works because what you want is for your families to meet each other. So sometimes something that also works is to probably talk about hobbies because you're going to find that there are like a group of parents that like, I don't know, craft. And there's another group of parents who likes to go like outside and things like that, like hiking. So then you can group your families and they're going to find each other, like make those connections that we talked about so much. So that's the opening activity. So what we are going to do, because we have, we would like to see if you really remember what we did, is I would like someone in your table to first go to your vision board and explain explain what all of your thoughts on your vision board. And also, we fall in love with your metaphors that you created. So we would like for you to kind of read your metaphor again and explain that to the audience. Yes?
Yes.
Questions?
Hey, when you guys go up to the board, or at some point today, would you write your school name on the top with a marker so we know whose school is who?
Questions? No? Okay, who wants to be the first one? Okay, I guess I'd like to add something to this. As you're explaining your vision board, since we did that on the end of the first day, has anything changed, or do you think you would have done anything different in regard to the vision board? So just a brief 1 minute, and then do your metaphor, and then we'll move on. You want to go first back there, Jim Pearson? I think Chris is ready.
Oh, Chris. Okay. You want to go?
Yeah, sure.
I like that. Sorry.
Okay, guys.
I'm on.
Collaborating. Because with her energy, you gotta collaborate with something, then you forget and lost in thought.
Okay. So ours is, we have our googly eye students right here in the center, and then connected to them are our pathways, that engagement with our school, our families, and our community.
Still holds true
Still
today.
holds true.
Do y'all remember your magic metaphor?
Yes, it was the dual capacity framework is like a watering can, because we will plant the seeds for family and school partnerships, and the water will nourish these relationships through the student learning, which the water is the partnership. I forgot.
Boom, love it. All right, right here. Jim Pearson.
Okay, so we had, it starts with us, this would be the school, sort of, because that's our motto, it starts with us, because it does.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to bridge the gap between the family, and so we built a bridge so that we could cross and get our points across to our families. And then we had a happy
Partnership school. Yes.
And it's gonna look beautiful, and so we're gonna be a partnership school.
Fantastic. And your magic metaphor?
You got that?
Just like a camera, sometimes you need to make edits to create a clearer picture. The dual capacity framework is like a camera because all the pixels come together to make a true picture of effective partnerships that support student and school involvement.
For those of you who were not here yesterday, we did this magic metaphor, and I should explain that. I gave 6 or 7 little images to choose from, and you had to make a metaphor about the dual capacity building framework with that image. So they had a watering can, they chose a camera. What'd you guys have?
We had paintbrush.
Yeah, you guys want to go ahead and go?
Sure. So for our vision board, we just were very simple, and we said we want our school to partner with family and community in order to lead to student success. Ultimately, creating that partnership, and then our metaphor was the dual capacity building framework is like a paintbrush. The handle, the bristles, and the metal around the brush are all needed to produce a beautiful outcome. The parts are the educators, which is the handle to initiate the movement. The families are the bristles, ensuring that everything is covered. And then the community surrounding those is the metal that holds it together. And then the students are the beautiful outcome that we wish for in the end.
I get chills when y'all read these. They're so good. Mr. Brooks.
All right, well, ours is ACMS. We put a lot of time into collaborating instead of making sure that it was all put on here. But as you can see, we have different bodies, and we have different colors and students that we service every day. And in whole, we have this one student that all the teachers and educators and even custodial staff put in to invest into this one beautiful child right here at ACMS. And it takes a village to raise and educate our students.
Yes.
In the
And they're all
metaphor.
wearing UGG shoes. I love it.
Yes.
All right, and so our metaphor was, we chose the wheelbarrow, and the dual capacity framework is like a wheelbarrow. because it is the tool that enables the tough work to be done. It allows us to work together to transport the heavy load of caring and preparing a child for and to adulthood.
Good job.
Okay, we got our school here, and we've had the bridge, and we wanted to link our communities and our families together along with our school.
The dual capacity building framework is artwork formed from painting a combination of diversity backgrounds that creates a masterpiece of culturally diverse student and family engagement.
Object Day art, beautiful. All right. We also said about this, didn't we, that sometimes that bridge might be a roller coaster? All right. What you guys? Do Yellow Brick Road.
Okay, so we did the Yellow Brick Road. Our students is our Dorothy. Our parents, we said, was the Mr. What is that? Goodbar. It was a line because sometimes they can be a little to start with, but they're really cuddly and soft and have the best of intentions. And then our teachers are our Tin Man, because sometimes again we can come across hard, but really we have a heart for the students. So our goal is together to go up to the path, which is a successful future. That's where our goal for all of our students are. We also said every once in a while we get a student on a different path, but we're still going to get them up to the ultimate goal.
Magic metaphor.
Dual capacity building framework is a tool just like a calculator with many functions. When we add all our variables together, our families, our community, our educators, our output is positive. And luckily, if you don't know how to use the tool, then we can find somebody to help you with it. So you've got to know how to put it in to get a result.
Give yourself a hand, guys. And thank you for enduring that with us, because you guys just did such a great job. I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance that wasn't here to be able to hear that. So thank you much. All right. We closed yesterday thinking about a family engagement event that we might have already implemented. And I asked you to think about that, right? In all of your free time last night. Anybody have any thoughts? We had these little questions up here for you to think about. What has been your experience with your family engagement events? Was the flow good?
They're just events.
Ours are sit and get, and they're not interactive.
Okay, good.
We have done, our system went through training several years ago,
Right.
as you said. And so I remember being in the school at that time, and we came out and we had our big nights, like 3 or 4 times a year. But then that was it. Like you were doing it those nights, but it's not the big stuff. It's the little everyday stuff. And I think that's a mind shift we've got to make, that this isn't necessarily going to cost us a ton of time or a ton of money. It's just you're just gonna have to stick with it.
Create new pathways,
Yes.
right? And that's because you do things the way that you've always done things.
Yes.
And I think it's a very insightful comment that you made, because you can do these events and you've got tools that we're going to give you to be able to do these events, but you have to do the work to build those relationships. Remember our core belief that we did? It's the responsibility of the administrators to reach out, right? We should be reaching out to create those partnerships instead of waiting for families to reach in. So I think that's a very good observation. Anybody else?
I mean, the incorporation of this material is not just for schools. So, I mean, you think about just everyday life, and of course, my immediate reaction is ministry. Why do you do what you do? What's the point? What's the purpose behind it? And as it was just stated, you do it because you've always done it. And so you do an event for outreach, you do an event for fellowship, you do it, so what's the purpose behind what you're doing?
Alright. Thank you for that.
Our superintendent coined a little acronym Tawadi. That's the way we always did it. It's true. You know.
I think we need a bumper sticker. Have you done events where families have had an opportunity to practice the skill that you want them to be able to do? Yeah, you're saying yeah? Okay. It's a mix, it's a mixed bag, right? So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna spend about an hour taking a new event. We're gonna start with linked to learning, right? Because what's our outcome? Student achievement and school improvement, right? When our students achieve, our schools improve. Think about these, think about the process conditions, and remember, family engagement is a strategy, right? It's not the end result, it's a strategy. All right, so in workshop 2, page number 10, page 10. 10 and 11 are the same, so you've got a blank one there, so I know y'all don't always like to write on your stuff, but there's a blank one for you. We are going to pick an event. Now, I'd love for you guys to share what event you would like to work through today. So this is how it's going to play out. We're going to pick an event. We're going to go through each of these sections. You're going to spend some time. It's a working hour, right? We'll be around to help you. There's also a sample in the workshop 2 guide as well. So as you're doing this on your own, you've got something to kind of compare that against. And then at the end of that, I'd like for you just to take about 3 minutes to share what you've come up with. And I'd love for all of us to look at that through the lens of providing them feedback. I don't know if anybody has seen that movie, Wine Country. May I offer you some feedback, right? So that's what we're gonna do. So, do you have an idea about your event? What you got, Rodney?
Math night.
Math night. Anybody else figure it out already? You need to talk about it a little bit?
Data festival.
Data?
Festival.
Festival, data festival. What you guys think? You need a little time? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
No. So,
That's my
right.
Well, there was choices on here, so I think that's what it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
but I was looking at that, but I was trying to incorporate
Oh, okay.
8th grade, 7th grade going to Jesus. And kind of like without showing the kids or just the growth of different things, data, where they are, where they're trying to be, and have some kind of motivation. That was just my individual.
So guys, even if this is not your very next event, if it's an event that you're planning to hold in the school year, we can use that. Okay, so we've got, y'all are gonna do math. Y'all are gonna do math, y'all are gonna do data.
Snacks
So what are you gonna do?
teach them?
Yes.
Or how we're gonna get to that. These are the things we have to
I mean, hey,
That's what I'm telling you. What you think? That is what we're doing. We're giving them tools so that they can go out and do these things.
Right.
This is going to improve us.
Right, so definitely things like that. But I thought this was just individually we share our ideas with the group? Oh, just one?
Planning an event.
Oh,
One event.
I thought you were all different ones and then we just share. Okay, well, hey, let me shut up then, cause I wanna hear about my ideas. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, look,
I
I
thought
haven't
it was
finished
just
my coffee, so I'm just listening and taking it all in, so my brain starts to work.
Well, that's this. Oh, it's already, oh, this is already.
I'm good with whatever you guys want to do.
Let me share, cause I thought you.
No, sir.
I thought you were gonna get it, I'm sorry.
No.
So after we share our ideas, then we.
Yeah, just pick, so what we're gonna do is we're
Cause I
gonna
wanna
pick.
speak for the group. that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
no, that's
I'm sorry.
fine.
No, you're
I'm not gonna, it's not concrete, but my concrete truck is gone. So, yeah, we're just, I want you to focus on something where you, have, students have an issue, or have a need for something that you wanna engage your families. So, you know, this time of year, what's the most important thing that you have a couple months?
Like the middle school and high school. Everything we've talked about this week, even with terms and people not knowing, this is a problem from birth. You got to know. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, today we're gonna dig into our data, so maybe that's your
That's our data, already and all right, so we're deficient in vocabulary.
What I'm trying to think of is how do we get these ideas, not just 4 or 2, how do we make the majority of this for something fun? And where it's not so much for fun. When they walk into the gym, it lights up for them to say, this is gonna be fun, going from table to table. And music and thinking of the ways to get families involved. But I think your child is extremely low. But here's the base.
Could you sign that and add to it?
Yes, and the baseline is right.
I'm with
here.
you.
But when
Can I have your attention for a
these
second?
are some things.
Okay. So I don't wanna interrupt good flow, but I just wanna reemphasize our process conditions, right? Relationships, what's the biggest key takeaway in that? Intentional, right? What intentional things are we doing to build relationships? And think about it through the lens of what event you're about to try to reimagine, okay? Link to learning and development. I told you a minute ago, that is first, right? That's the reason that we're here. What are we gonna focus on that's linked back to our learning, our standards, where we need the most help? Asset-based. How are you gonna make sure that you have an opportunity to teach your families? I think it was Stevens that said we do to our families, it's a sit and get, right? How do you take the strengths that you're aware of and continue to build off of that? How will we be both responsive and respectful in terms of our cultural differences? Working in groups, right? Collaborative, that was the 5th process condition. How are you gonna create these, for 2 days, and this morning, we've done activities to help connect you with other people in this room. How are you gonna intentionally connect people into groups where they can build relationships with one another and be strength partners for one another? And then practice and feedback, that's our interactive piece. How are we gonna make sure that in our math night, if we want them to know how to work on multiplication, we gotta show them, right? Remember the video? We have to, what did you say? I do,
We do, you do.
you do, right? I do, we do, you do.
And also, like, how are you going to differentiate? Like we were talking, for example, you need to be ready for that differentiation of the students. So let's say that, for example, you're teaching the parents to do practice in addition, and the standard for 2nd grade is addition them from 0 to 100. So you teach them the strategy for 0 to 100, but then you tell them, okay, if your child is not ready for this, you're gonna teach your child 0 to 20, right? And if your child is done with 0 to 100, then you're gonna teach them like 100 to 1,000. So be ready to give them some like ways to make it different, but without saying for you the ones that are really low, you know, because you can't say that. All right.
Yeah, good, thank you for adding that in. All right, on page, I think it's on page 12, there is a sample plan in there that you are welcome, please don't duplicate it, but use it as a guide, okay? I'm gonna tear that apart, I'm gonna run through these just a little bit. You have this. Okay. We have this in your participant guide, but let's just take it in chunks, right? Take it in chunks, don't choke on the elephant, do one at a time. If you are struggling with something, Maricel and I are here to kind of help you. The sample plan is there to kind of help you get an idea of what you need to do. Ideas you can include. So, I think I mentioned this too yesterday. We have always done events where our kids are showing, right? Showing what they're learning. That's great. I will tell you that families will be distracted if they have to worry about what their kids are doing, and they won't have an opportunity to really get in there and do the I do, we do, you do approach, right? To practice that. So think about ways that you can use other staff in your building to help you corral the kids, take them to the gym, put a movie on, something, okay? But this sounds awful because we're teachers. We're not gonna make this about students, right? This is adult work that we're trying to do. So keep that in mind, okay? And being intentional about each of those processes.
Because if you tell them they can't bring their children in real life.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Don't tell, be prepared to have something for the kids to do.
In real life.
And if you all remember our see and hear exercise, that's part of this too. What are you going to be able to see? Where do we need to build capacity in our staff to pull this off? Where do we need to build capacity in our families? Okay? Questions? All right, we're going to spend about 30 minutes on this. And then you'll share wherever you are.
That's what we have.
Yeah, and just incorporate like if I have other concepts going on, like,
Like, it's not something I feel like is a habit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of other packages that so what's going on?
So in order to go from grade to grade, in order to go to the next grade, you have to register.
Well, I don't want to make it big
You think so?
teacher, and then you're like,
I think we need to talk about a learning packet or something that we are providing for the parents in order to support our association. Yes, but I mean, but that's the idea. I mean, that's the goal. A parent kit or some kind of, some kind of kit. Yes, I mean, this is a success kit or something.
but to have different
Stevens was the same way. Instructional learning always.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at it.
See what I'm saying? Bonus, the kids get bonus points for parent show. Now that's been a motivation. Yeah.
25 points. If you dressed up, you got 25 points. To be used when grade play.
You didn't play them grades.
No, but they were only used like on the lowest score, like the low test score, well, maybe not a test score, but the lowest grade that they had, the grade, and that 25 points could be used. And one was part of them, like one was math, and then one was English. It was not every class. It was only, yes. And see, social studies is tied to, social studies is tied with the English, and science is tied with the math. So see, that's the way we break it up. So science points.
Oh, practice. I know you were going to say, yeah.
That's what I'm.
If your kid needs to,
Yeah.
when he puts you, you'll be like, Mommy.
Yeah, I always should.
I was gonna say, that's something I would say for me, even on a hard day, like if I had to make like an extra arrangement for Ryan, like if I knew that.
For me, I wanna have a list. So the time of day matters, and the points. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, that's what I was wondering.
What I'm hearing.
So we got
I'll ask, you know, for my family assistance.
Always have to be here. They're always notified.
you know, you don't have something to say there, because y'all think about the mix of parents. They way young, and I'm like 5. So they like 20, well, young.
And they're, my kids say, because they're home, but their parents don't.
So we got to think about this about your daycare.
Can't do it.
Dr. Price, help us. How we gonna get these kids to say, parents come?
What incentive?
Like the parents could get a teacher, that goes and draws for see what they want. Because, you know, I might say, right, so hold the kids to see what they want. The parents get a teacher, and they write their kid's name on the back, and you have a draw, or maybe more than one.
I'm kind of incentive, because they
Civic is the 10th grade, every night at the high school. iPads were here with prizes.
I didn't really know where you were going.
Well, that's one thing.
Once you get the assessment, then we need so I guess we just need to would that be too late as far as family engagement? Because the
Burn out on them. Oh, I got it. Yeah, but if you gonna do like the first and second, I mean, the first one is gonna be about parents, and your biggest turnout is open house when they come get scheduled. Put them in the, put the kids in the auditorium or something.
No, we need to meet the teacher, that needs to be open house, and we establish the connection.
Yeah.
Just come pick your schedule, one minute, classes, or would you not meet?
That's what
You
you
may or
say.
may not need to be in class. This is just, and then we have our,
So it may be that we take
traditional open mic. Parents come in, they already know they already know, so they come in, they report to their first period classes, and they follow their schedule, and then during that time, your teachers can do your, this is what's going on in class, this is how.
So meet the teacher later, but that.
Have you narrowed down the specific skill that you wanna work on? Or specific piece of information that you wanna work on?
But in order to do that, you gotta spend more time in that.
Should be moving to the interactive part. What interactive skills do you need to build?
Send the students to the auditorium, and parents will go.
And that's the teachers that need to be. Literacy, because that's what. I mean, that's the only way we can fit it in, I mean, that was the logical. Literacy is vocabulary, and we can go.
Okay, what do you think? You can hang
Where, that's fine. Well, and not just that, again, this giant. Well, and if you're looking at a math goal and you're trying to do whole school math goals, everyone's flying. Because you have to get to totally different standards as you're in your regular math track. If we break it into smaller groups and let it follow those schedules,
And have a state
they go through their class, their
And since we are taking, can we not have the seventh grade math teachers do the seventh grade ELA teachers do theirs, and they can choose which start strong. Each teacher can their own.
But if you
Well, school-wide, all right. I mean, that's just, we know that, so we can do that for both, but we just need to make it smaller. And we can do the same thing twice, but just at different grade levels.
or you can do that when you just and then break out into different groups. So
Okay, so let's go to the main of
yeah, get a positive or yeah, and then all you have to say is
I think
you have Harry Potter. Really easy, and then that's where I would do most of because that's where
I know it sounds weird.
So I'm thinking about next year, we're gonna try to implement some of these things between now and the end of the school year. But actually,
Yes. Same page. So all of a sudden, someone told me December is we'll have about a full hour or two meeting.
but we're gonna make that
whole thing. I would like to hear how we can incorporate scale and stuff like that. Or just drive it from how do y'all.
Ticket items measured to your needs. Start with that way. You guys probably throughout the year,
But I would like to say, why did we also have some videos for them, things that constantly come out and say, this is, we all have something else that we'll build, so it's kind of
school after you come back. I did your break. Maybe right before testing.
I mean, even if, look, if it's time's going to it's a less of a Bible it's how I
What's been the pictorial?
And that's just because we knew it's data. We just had a data today.
When I had to write them 10 times a day,
That's when I. It took away spelling words.
Instead of like vocabulary, you can give them a supplemental, like, these are words. In seventh grade, these are big words. Eighth grade, these are big words, but what we concentrate on with the vocabulary is these are strategies there. And you can help your kids use at home to learn these words. And we can show things like Quizlet, where they can type vocabulary, type in meaning message or whatever.
Y'all ain't go back to the piece of paper for this.
Well, I mean, it's just another strategy. It's and simple.
to give several months anything different homework, yeah.
You know that if we're pulling in there, like, we're on a straight base, you know how to live learn. You know what's necessary, because you've been with your kids for so long. I think you know how to learn. These are different strategies. One of these strategies that works with your kids.
Yeah, let me say this afternoon, we're going to, so, this is one event. This afternoon, we'll be able to pictures, so the conversations are things where you guys are having, if you are a little bit more focused on reviewing cards, we look at the data, that says, you know, 38% of our seventh graders are below spacing.
So we're overthinking this.
Yeah, you're in the, so we're gonna do
Assessment for the icebreaker.
So this is really just like, how are we building those relationships?
with those six, with those six,
So we need to go back to the house meeting.
Yes, we need an opportunity for relationship building to that.
Hey guys,
We can throw this
don't get sucked in to the weeds about the larger year-long, how are we gonna improve vocabulary, or how are we gonna improve math? We're focusing on one event and trying to implement those 6 processes. This afternoon, we're gonna be doing, some of the conversations I'm hearing are like what we're gonna be doing this afternoon. So let's just keep our minds on the 6 process conditions and how we're gonna implement those in the event that we have chosen, in the learning goal that we need to try to assess.
Assessment.
Communication, right, because that's what we talked about this whole 3 days, is that there's a major breakdown in communication between ACMS and So this would be our kickoff to let's try this again. And we're having you come in, you're seeing your teachers face to face. And you're getting all this other information so that we can get you ready for that. And we're getting getting good. And then when the teachers come, I mean, when we're
That's what stress out makes me. I'm like,
That's what all that is. What is their plan? What things are going to do
They just
No, I agree. Baylor was so cool.
Athletic,
yeah, athletic.
something like that.
Well, the girls want to wear leggings.
Is that number 10?
What is your motivation now? Like,
I do like the idea of a student survey about what they're doing. So maybe at the end of this year, to do some kind of student survey. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Amy. That helps. They were so excited. Baylor has a real shoes on getting on there. Not have to tuck your shirt in.
Okay, this needs to happen because we're fixing to change electives. So that will be a good time for them to meet their other elective teacher.
That's right, because we downplay elected teachers, but you can make a plan in the elected. Over here.
So we've got to.
the schedule, but they get about 7 or 8 minutes here with each team. Now, I will say.
Okay, I like that.
So, this is the open house, right?
Your goal is to
Doing
get
open
there,
house.
get it,
So, each teacher
Just to keep us on task, guys.
for the whole school.
Try to move on to that next chunk of information, those 4 boxes about how we will strengthen relationships, looking at assets, cultural responsiveness,
Drop it into the teacher's
and
box
collaboration.
on that word in the sentence. That would allow the kids to be able to work athletic. Most all the kids would probably participate because the teacher would be able to, if there's 20 kids in there, or however many kids there are.
Yeah, so but you want the parents to come to learn.
So they gotta learn.
Well, that way we know about it.
Yes.
We know about it first. That was the big thing, you know, us not knowing. And then they're coming home that night saying, hey, where's that word?
Yeah, this is the word.
I like
That ticket would be, reintroduced to the teacher to be allowed to where.
So they don't all tell each other the word.
Yeah. Because it has to be in that bucket.
You gotta give them a ticket. You're gonna have to give them a ticket.
Or so you're saying when they drop the word back in the bucket, does it have like their name on it or
No,
something? Maybe
no, what happens,
he'll have to use it.
in his own handwriting, yes, he would have to use it in a sentence.
That won't work for your teachers.
Get out there,
But just not, just teach that one word.
Go back to the basics.
120 sentences.
All you're trying to do is look at.
As long as their name's on it, so they.
We're not trying to,
Everybody.
we're just trying to get
They are doggone elected.
So when they turn their sentence in, do they, or maybe when they turn their sentence in, they get their is that what it is?
I was just trying to say that we introduced it.
No, and I like that. I was just thinking on, I'm
Back to the
trying to do
basics,
both
back to the
sides.
basics.
I'm trying to-
That's fine.
But I do like,
More than that, then their baby don't do something, and then they mad at the school,
they
cause I
can
was
get over
there.
that second.
Our dad.
That's fine, just keep it, because I'm just trying to think of.
That's her. But is that learning anything? Is that easier? I mean, 'cause I see where you're coming from.
That's what we do about
How do you meet that happy medium? This is wanting teachers to want to do things.
I think the biggest thing is to get them out. Yeah. And then, that's your assessment.
It's yeah.
I'm trying to keep it pulled out. We were just trying to figure out how to still make it learn, still make kids want together, but then not making it just extra work for teachers, that they still want to do.
Sure. So this is the high school, this is a process, right? And you may not have one of your families there the first time you do this, then you have a form. But when families here, it's different. And they see relationships with other people, and they feel connected and like they know what to do, right? If you're like that, yeah, you'll go back and say, look, Sally, this is different. You gotta come. And maybe the message from the school is, families, thank you for being here, as we're trying to, readjust. There you go.
And maybe that's what feedback might do, parent feedback that night, and then we do that.
And then encourage everybody to bring a friend of theirs that has students in school. Yes. And then over the course of the week, this is going to take a while to build to where it's like that.
We're all over like it to be perfect.
And you are the biggest group, and everybody's got to, so I want you to be able to at least have some conversations about each of these topics. And you're not gonna finish this class, but, I want you to have the support that you need to be
So something small,
So like the first hours of high school is so much different because, it's the point where families, like you're balancing that my kid needs autonomy, but I still need to be able to stay on top of it. And do things like, how can you insert vocabulary words while you're sitting at the dinner table? Or in the car, because a lot of people, they're in sports and they go do fast food.
small things, but not nothing big like the world. Just say, here's a platform here that you can use
And give them practice, let them practice getting into Quizlet.
Does that sound pretty good? Like
Just keep do that. Now, that is an idea because
Liz, Quizlet, and another platform. Yeah.
you know,
So that'll be a start.
She said, so we don't, some of us don't like all of these programs.
teachers think it's just the best
Fantastic, so
thing.
maybe it's one.
Quizlet. So we think we can do Quizlet.
I think it's,
Yeah, my son talks about that all the time, so at least we kind of know how to do it.
So,
You charge
that open house remix, we can just introduce Quizlet to the teacher. Simple. What do we want? I've already started my list.
as an associate skill would be to model Quizlet, would introduce. Yeah.
And that's the start of our
Everybody has a, like, everybody has. I will tell y'all this is I want to say there is.
So we have about 10 minutes left, okay? So if you're stuck in the weeds, you need to keep moving.
I don't know what they used to do, because once we got in the final room, we all sat there and we went all day from the church, and they had made a plan that we had, and it was but then it had extra questions in it too.
partners with each other. You might not know who we're like.
Index cards with. Put that much down sometimes you just go home. I know that's not encouraged, but some technology. I know, I do. Pre-populated cheese. You can cheese. When I think of Quizlet, I think of cheese.
What is it?
The answers.
Do you have any idea how to help your child?
I'm thinking if we give them, do the Quizlet thing and that's an access practice would be, okay, a test with that. Do you know where the front office is? I mean, you
that
have
is
to,
all.
and,
You know how to afford your child's assignment. But I'm telling you, that's another thing. Do we know how to pull the assignment? Can we find the syllabus? Can we find the rubrics for the blah, blah, blah? Cause you gotta plan sale. Icebreaker activity right there. Yep, something like that to find out where to find these things. Because you may have an edge on when they leave, plant sale project, and I'm thinking all you gotta do is label the spots, but it's something, it's still 50. So where is the syllabus? It's a universal way of finding what the assignment is.
That way it's
Okay, so here's the thought. You know how I use all the reports and stuff? I added the
Still makes the great
But you have to figure out a way to find out what they already know, the parents already know. Do we know what to find this? You know, just, it could be just simple questions, like, do you know how to work the Google Classroom? Are you having issues with Google Classroom, or whatever? And then at the end of the scaffolding, we can, after you've shown them, and they're not supposed to about Google Classroom, how to log on, how to go, or whatever, how to tell this to that kind of stuff. And then you can know what deficit we're in, how to improve with our program.
We can do that with the teachers. Here's the
but we're only doing one thing.
Yeah, we're only doing icebreaker.
But the scavenger hunt icebreaker hopefully would give them the answers if we model the test of SMS. And we're looking at 15, 20 days for each of them. Because we got, if they're gonna follow their child's schedule,
Then you go into
That's right, maybe design it just for everybody's homeroom.
Homeroom would be just major thing. And then if you want, you can just ring the bell and let the parents walk through and do the rest of the schedule if you want.
Yeah, and I almost think we need to offer us that way they're getting your
So we're looking at 30 minutes. And
So even if your concept is not fully developed in each of these, we need to be moving to the next one, right?
30 minutes. So
The
that's
last two boxes.
So you got 5 more minutes. I mean, 2 or 3 minutes, just walk to this.
I think so. When did they
Oh,
And the only way to do that
is one of the days we all need to see the home with us.
for a small group of people, they're done, put it on.
Thank you.
You know, like we're gonna do the.
I can translate a box.
The names are going to have to be separated according to code. And give it to the teacher. It's gonna have to be the planning. The only way it's gonna run smooth is if it's planned out. But I'm just, y'all were just talking about roads, one of the ways to do it. I mean, just playing cards, just give them a playing card when they come in, and then all the cards get here. Those kinds of things. Yes. Yeah, so you still gotta have that already done. So each teacher's going to have their remix packet.
Like I said, make that packet, and then you guys just give it to the teachers, that's your parents, and then that's one less thing that they have to do. So where they're already got this program going, and it's like I had to take that time.
For facts.
Right, and then like my first work or something like that, it's just like, instead of having all things to work with, like isolate from the workload here.
I'm thinking of the classroom management that we teach in some of these classes. I'm just.
And again, we can do trial and error, you can try it that way and see how it works.
We're gonna do that, like, we're gonna pretend that, that's the way it is. Like, we're gonna
have that option.
role play.
That comes down to you saying you don't have that, so we have to know. Or whoever you want to say that, or you can make that. I don't know what school said she's not.
But I mean, if we're utilizing only what hours we need to do.
Play that into your quiz later.
You'd be a survey at the beginning. So that's how you know if your end result is what you were looking for. Just having a program and not work. The same survey, it'll be the same survey, the same survey. It'll be that way.
You really think that'll change for 30 minutes? Well, because you said you guys use that in what you're doing.
Yeah, because you don't know if it's working, like, they've been having a big exam with a kid over here. It's not working. Great great grandma can answer my question, you know what she. I mean, again, whatever's right. Ask everybody, how many knows about quizzing? How many heard of quizzing? Nobody's heard of it. And then at the end, by the time you finish doing what you're doing, everybody's heard about it. Boom, success.
Guys, we have 3 minutes to kind of get where you are. Guys, it's not finished, I know. It's not expected to be finished.
Okay.
That way you know you're getting it. If you go, look, here's the survey, please do it and return it.
That's true.
Now, that's true.
So we don't have
Yeah,
to
'cause
do
I would leave it out
anything.
there, that survey. If I've already taken it.
We won't have to do anything other than create the survey.
We'll have somebody by the door.
Like drop it in, or take it, drop it in, just do it.
And then that ticket gives you, and however,
whatever the student.
Also gives you a count.
What is it, so many dojo points or free sweatshirts, their sweatpants. Whether you know about it or not, the kids are getting points for not participating in fun days. Yeah, points for not participating in fun days. Donuts, ice cream, popsicles. They're already getting stuff.
And maybe it's a little hard.
And I don't know, that's y'all, just a whole problem.
You know.
don't know, I didn't know he had a donut anyway. No, because if he don't want to get a donut, then I need to know. Y'all don't be listening to me. Just like I just found out, he didn't come in the party.
Oh, I thought you meant.
He sat with the teacher, need a point. Don't miss the concept.
Again, we need to know what the assets are. For instance, you said I know what your assets are. You would volunteer from wonderful volunteer. But see, that's gonna have to be a conversation within those rooms. Either the teachers are gonna have to have a sign-up sheet saying,
It's not for you.
It's the night.
All right, guys.
To me, that's
All right, guys. Pay attention. You can hear me. Perfect. Okay, I know you're not finished. Okay. But this is something that I would love, so I want you to present. Each team's gonna have about 3 minutes to just kind of run through. And you guys provide feedback. I'm gonna offer you some feedback. On the slide here, I have some trends and themes and innovative ideas, kind of like we did before. All right. As you're sharing this, and you may not be able to get deep in some of the areas, share what you have. And I think it's imperative that you go back and you take where you are, continue to use that sample plan, and really build this out and go try to implement it, okay? The first time, I told a couple groups, you may not get any more response from your families than what you've been used to getting. But as Chris said yesterday, rabbits, right? When they leave that room, everybody needs to bring somebody back with them to the next event. And so over the course, of several events, and how you market it, or how you brand it, how you use, we're going to talk about channels of communication this afternoon. Those things, I don't want you to set yourself up for disappointment if you don't get the response that you had hoped for. But if you stick to this sort of format of planning all of your events, who said, Chris, was it you? If you build it, they will come? Okay.
From Field of Dreams, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So who wants to go first? So on page, what page is that in your book? Session 2, page 15. There's 6 questions there. What event did you plan? What learning goal did you address? How is this going to be different? How will you intentionally address the relational and linked learning processes, and how will you intentionally address the process conditions and prepare your staff? So it's going to go along in each area and just hit those real quickly, okay? You guys want to go first?
I will.
Thanks, Jim Pearson.
You're welcome. So we're gonna do a math night, and we were thinking of, because I think we're gonna do that in the spring anyway, so we're gonna have it, we're gonna plan it a lot better. So, where's the question?
Page 15.
Okay, so normally we have it in the lunchroom, but we're gonna have it in classrooms, like you would go to your child's classroom teacher. We're gonna address addition with regrouping, because we pulled up in our already that numbers in operations was low in 2nd grade. Then we're going to So when, in the past, we went to the lunchroom and had about 20 parents out of 700 show up and just did little stations. And we actually did some investigations, games from AMSI. So they really didn't get to see grade specific skills, I feel like. So we're gonna let them go in the classrooms, they're gonna be immediately greeted, and then we're gonna do an icebreaker, and we just said, go up, introduce yourself, and ask what's your favorite hobby. Then we're gonna say, okay, switch, mingle, find another person, and do that 3 or 4 times, and then she said, you might not know that somebody in your child's class, even if you know them, that they like to
Garden.
garden, and you love the garden, go with them. So, cause I think a lot of times our classrooms are, each family's on an island. You've lost something on your shoulder. We would, and then we're gonna ask them, how do they regroup? And let them show us how they regroup with 2-digit numbers, because most of them are gonna do the algorithm. You know, my husband sees numbers.
They don't regroup, they carry.
They carry, yes, they carry, and they borrow. And then, see, then we are going to have handouts and slides be available in all the languages. And I said, and this even said, to have them it offered in different places in their language, because sometimes it's hard when you're holding something and you've got a translator, and then you say something, then translator. Our parents at our other school were like, please let us go somewhere else. We learn a lot more if we're in a separate room. So I offer that, and all the slides will be in their language. And then we said, organize your groups in your classroom, maybe sort of like your tiered groups are, like all your high group parents, they don't know this.
Yeah.
All your middle group and all your tier 3 kids, because she said, one of the parents she knows real well, she said something about her daughter being pulled. She was like, oh, really? My son's being pulled too. She wouldn't tell anybody, but once she found out her child was being pulled, she was more comfortable. So, you know, they might get into that conversation, but how you prepare staff, you're just gonna have to train them. And you're gonna have to be a happy warrior, because I heard on the radio this morning, happy warriors draw a larger crowd. So if you get excited about something, sometimes you might not draw everybody, but you're gonna draw. But I mean, the principal's just gonna have to say, we have to do this, you know, and train it, make the training fun. You know. And then what will you see and hear? I figure you're gonna hear lots of noises and lots of laughing and lots of, oh my goodness, I didn't know you could do that, and you know, just a lot of things coming in their head. And then tell the parents to bring a friend next time.
Nice. Thank you. Good job, guys. Anybody have an idea or suggestion to offer?
Something that I just want to add to that, because we didn't actually get to those last couple of things, but on the preparing the staff and even your students for that, I have a love-hate relationship with this at Radney. I love that Miss Morgan gives an incentive for every child that their parent logs into a meeting or participates in whatever the engagement is, because my child comes home and says, Mama, I want the cupcake tomorrow. You've got to be one of the first 100s to sign in tonight. And I'm like, do you know what else we have going on tonight? You know, there's been nights that we've been at middle school football games, and I'm sitting there trying to watch the boys, and I'm watching a Zoom, and I'm listening to my kids, and, you know, doing all of these things, but my kid wants that incentive. And so who doesn't want an incentive? So I think it's important that we remember to do that for our staff too. And I know Stacy came home from the middle school, I think it was last Friday, he said, we got donuts today. Yes. So, you know, even adults want incentives. So I think, you know, in doing that, I think it's important when our staff participates. I think it would be good to have some type of drawing for them, or
Because it's dual, right?
Right.
Dual capacity.
Hey, they told us one year that if whoever had the highest percentage of parents attend the TAP conferences would get a set of Gina B. Jones books. Guess what? Every one of my parents showed up, every single one. So.
Thank y'all. Good job.
And teaming up your people, because sometimes you do have those negative Nancy's that don't really want to participate participate in anything. But if you put them with somebody that's positive, that's gonna help counteract that, and they don't feel like I've gotta do all this preparation by myself, maybe, you know, put them together and let them.
Well, just like the activities that we've done here, we've switched it up, we moved it around, and people that were less creative felt more empowered to participate with those who were. So, thank you. All right,
Okay.
Stevens, 3 minutes.
Okay, so basically, we said we wanted to start with food because we feel like that's, you know, an issue or concern. But we want to separate our children. We don't want to say that, you know, children aren't invited. If they need childcare, we want to provide that. We have activity teachers in our building. We even talked about inviting community members to come and help out with the kids that would be in the gym, eating and playing or whatever. And Miss Morgan mentioned, you know, invite Coach Blackwell, invite those higher up coaches that those kids will encounter as they get older in the district to kind of form a relationship early on. So that's kind of how we were gonna start. I don't know about locations and all that yet, but we definitely wanted to have a space for the children to go so that they're not a distraction. And we want them to have fun. We don't want them just sitting around, you know, bored. So we want to do that, make it engaging, and then we were looking at a literacy night and a math night, and focusing on our standard that we feel like we need in order for our children to become more proficient. We've looked at our data. So for reading, we talked about a focus on comprehension and mainly main idea skill, because so many children, you know, struggle with that. So teaching the parent explicitly, like we would the students in our classroom, using highlighters in the text and all of the things, like provide them with all of that, and then giving them a folder, kind of like in the video that we watched yesterday. And then Miss Hardy had a good idea of giving them a fiction and a nonfiction book, and even explicitly explaining fiction is a made-up story, because some parents may not know that. You know, you kind of teach differently based on fiction and nonfiction, and explaining about how nonfiction is a harder text and students struggle with it a little more. And then in order to meet everybody culturally, of course we'd have our translators available, but for our special needs babies, we want to make sure that we differentiate. When we talk about the building blocks, we want to even go over phonics and explain how to teach phonics and what phonics is, and incorporate our intervention teachers and incorporate our special education teachers. They need to have a part in what's being taught. And then for math, we talked about explaining number sense, explaining the new math that everybody talks about, the addition, subtraction fluency, and multiplication fluency for 4th grade is a big deal. And then providing them with flashcards for both in their folder on that night. And then we talked about just incorporating strategies to get them to know each other, you know, the grouping activities, icebreakers, and then we were talking about incentives too, because I think that's important. We talked about going around to community members and asking them for donations, and then everybody having a number. And we were just thinking initially the parents get a door prize, but even the staff could be numbered, and whoever's number is full, you know, staff member, parent, whoever, they could get a door prize, you know, for little breaks in the night. And then that's it basically. Oh, and we talked about coming as you are, like in the video yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wearing their suit and tie. Everybody just kind of being in t-shirt and jeans, and everybody feeling equal and compatible and that kind of thing.
I love how specific you were with the learning goal.
We tried to be specific.
Yeah, that's what you want to do, right? And there's nothing in family engagement practice that says that you have to do all of your events for the entire school. If you're having a 2nd grade issue with vocabulary, and maybe it's just bringing those tier 2 and tier 3 kiddos and their families in to give them some additional support. Okay, good job. Anybody, questions, comments?
I like this special ed.
Yeah?
Because I feel like sometimes those parents don't know what's going on in their classrooms.
And they want to be there, and they want to be supported.
inclusive,
And we don't do enough to say, okay, you know, and whatever special ed teachers are doing would help everybody, you know, not just those babies.
Well, then we know what to work on at home, because they
Exactly.
might not get to at school for whatever reason. I mean, maybe my kid was acting like a donkey that day, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, like, so when you come home, like, maybe that's something we can do at home or I know a special fun way that works, and then he'll be more willing to do it because he doesn't like to be wrong. So maybe the next time he'll do it because he's more confident in doing it, you know?
Yes.
Thank y'all. Good job.
Very good.
Yeah. can go. Rodney? Just keep it going. All right, go Rat, go Rat. Pom-pom.
All right, so our math night is gonna call Multiply Your Child Success Night. That'll be at Radney. So you make sure y'all are there, and if your child attends, your child will get a cookie cake giveaway. They will be able to participate in a cookie cake giveaway. Along with, on our flyer is gonna say door prizes, because we're gonna hand out raffle tickets, and we're gonna have door prizes. And we're gonna serve hot cocoa, because this is gonna be in January. So if your child attends, you'll have the opportunity for your child to participate in a cookie cake giveaway if you come to our Multiply Your Child Success Night. We're gonna model making, well, it's of course, it's multiplication facts. We're gonna model making arrays of using pom-poms that demonstrate multiplication facts. Like craft pom-poms.
Like these right here?
I'm sure pom-pom.
Correct. Only like
our
and we'll give them a baggie with pom-poms and multiplication cards, multiplication fact cards that we're gonna buy at Amazon that are on sale for $2.86 a pack. We just looked it up.
Go girl.
I'm gonna use my Title I parent involvement funds for that. Then we're gonna start off with, at the door, they'll get a raffle ticket, and we're gonna do that speed networking, not speed dating like we were told not to. We don't wanna say that, so it's gonna be called speed networking, and we're gonna ask them.
wedding cake cupcakes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. We ain't encouraging none of these kids to get paid. College cupcakes. The two questions will be two facts about you, and then we rotate it. Then they move around and find somebody else, and the other question will be, why did you come? So we can kind of figure out what the parents are thinking, of the purpose of this. For our, how we intentionally utilize family assets, one of the questions that we will have at the table, because we're gonna do 5th grade is gonna be in the gym, and 6th grade will be in the cafeteria area. And one of our questions will be, how can you spare 15 minutes a night to work with your child on this multiplication facts? And then they can kind of, talk about a couple minutes at the table, how they're gonna embed 15 minutes, and we'll have a couple of teachers, we'll be walking around trying to give ideas. We're gonna have a translation electronic device that that Dr. Price has purchased. So we're gonna beg her, can we borrow those? So that our Hispanic population won't have to be segregated. They can be in the mix with everyone. The collaborative networks, we're going to have, we're gonna have the people who are bringing their kids, we're gonna do a rotation. PE, the art class, Togo's gonna do our STEM activity. Miss Foreman and Muse are gonna do library read-alouds with hot cocoa for the kids. And for the parents. And every time, I just want to give a shout out to myself, because I never do this, but she actually said, she said every time that you do something for the kids, like when I did the cupcakes and everything, I bought enough for staff. When I did the ice cream social, my staff got ice cream, and myself and the AP, we went around on the cart and we scooped it and we presented it to them. So I wanted them to feel like we're just not thinking about, scoop that is, we're just not thinking about the kids. We're also acknowledging staff as well. So presentations, we're gonna have them by groups, we're gonna model the icebreaker. So how we're gonna do it, or how it'll be collaborative, is we'll have our teachers plan it, demonstrate it, and model it, and then we'll tweak it. And then at the beginning for the collaborative part, we're gonna have the presenters, they'll model it and say, this is what we plan on doing tonight. And then we'll have our PTO, yes, who was involved in everything that I do. They can help us plan it and then help us, with whatever other things we'll have. We'll have a survey left at the door with follow-up with teachers by providing parents with phone numbers and including our interventionist phone numbers. There'll be exit tickets, and we're gonna try to offer one night a week for open Zoom time for teachers. They can swap out to just maybe answer those questions for that.
Open house.
Correct.
Virtual open house.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that that'll be something that we have. Now that part I'm gonna try to sell it, but asking people to give up one night might not happen, but that is just, that's our foundation. I don't mind even doing it. I taught math.
Free lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, swap something out. I love that you said getting the PTO involved and helping you co-create the details of this.
Because they're gonna be the ones who we model it on.
Yeah, nice.
And the husbands.
Good job. Thank you. $2.98 on Amazon, okay?
Oh, sorry, $2.67. I found it cheaper.
All right, questions? Additions, suggestions?
Please,
She wants
suggestions.
to come.
You can serve hot chocolate.
Suggestions, please.
I got an L, I'll get an L thing.
Right, okay, who's next? Middle school? You
Like,
ready?
we are just over here just sharing and thinking and
I have
just
nothing to report
collaborating. We did for a long time, like she was worried, like,
Yeah.
are they gonna write anything?
Isn't it y'all's turn if we're going in order? Just saying.
Yeah.
If you,
We can go.
okay.
Because I have a feeling we're on the same struggle bus y'all were in, maybe, I don't know. I'm the driver. I think, okay, so, yeah, just to kind of keep it real, there's so much we wanted to do, and so we spent a lot of times kind of dwindling down to figure out what we wanted to focus on first. You know, every journey begins with a single step, right? We were wanting to take leaps and bounds. So, what we decided was kind of the most important thing to start with is to have an event, kind of like an open house, but to teach our parents how they can play an important role as far as what Power School is, how to use Google Classroom, how to check attendance, things of that nature. And so we decided that it would be best, because we are large, to divide it up into 2 different grade levels, having 1 hour specified for 9 and 11 and then 1 hour specified for 10 and 12. And then the parents, or the teachers, kind of divided into classrooms, and then each teacher will have a Nearpod presentation that the parents will actually log into. So we'll have them bring their student's device or show them how to log into Nearpod, so that the student or the parents do what the students do and go through all those aspects as far as downloading the Power School app and things of that nature. We also talked about having 1 session completely in Spanish by our Spanish teacher and our middle teacher. We hadn't come up with an incentive yet or theme, but we do know that we're going to utilize our event planning class, our SGA, and our men and women in order to do some of those presentations. And yeah, we on the road.
Great job, secondary.
Yeah. You know, I think I said this in the very first session, that we make assumptions that as our children progress into secondary, that families don't want to be involved. And I don't think that's true. I think what's true is that there is this delicate balance between autonomy, building for your student, and stepping back as a parent, and talk about struggle bus, right?
Yeah.
But families in secondary need to know, right? There's a need to know, and we have to reach out and create that excitement or that interest for them in ways that in our busy lives we can do simple things to reinforce what's happening. It doesn't have to be a huge sit-down elaborative thing that they do every night at home. Just little, even here are some open-ended questions that you can ask your kid about comprehension and reading. You know, just little things like that. So I know it's hard, and hopefully that plan will help you, and we're going to make sure that you guys have our contact information. So if you're stuck on something, you can call us.
We were discussing that even though it is not that the parents don't like to be involved in secondary, it is true that happens. But we don't know if it is that the kids don't want their parents to be there. Not because of anything, but don't kiss me, don't say goodbye to me. It's something you don't know.
Chop me off in the corner.
Yeah. So what we were discussing is that a good idea to overcome that is by having most of your children, of the students, involved in something. So kids can be the ones that are going to greet people, to take people, like their parents, to the classrooms to make sure that they're checking, giving the surveys, collecting surveys, even in charge of planning some of the activities that the kids are going to do in childcare. Like you can give them a lot of things that they can do, and that way they will bring their parents. Because they know that they want to show up, they want their parents to see that they did something. So that's one way to do it.
Thank you for that. Yeah, student ambassadors, create opportunities for, and that helps to build what Maricel is talking about, is helping to build capacity within their social emotional learning, right? Like responsible decision making, being able to be socially aware, and those kinds of things.
And you may find leaders that weren't leaders.
Yeah.
You may find some children that didn't think they could lead, but might be pretty good.
And it's creating a culture of how important both student and family voice is.
I think you could even go a step further with those ambassadors and get their parent. I think it was said in this way, but get their parents, their families involved in that too. Not just the kid, but hey, you want to help me with this, mom? You want to help me with this, dad? And encourage that, and maybe get past that transitional wall of I don't want you involved anymore.
Yeah, well, they can tell their parents, you need to go because I need to go.
Yeah.
I have something to do, so
Yeah.
we both need to go.
Yeah.
All right, middle school.
All right.
Now
But, you wanna go, Ms. Lassiter, Ms. Simmons?
Sure, okay. All right, so we have talked about doing like our remix, open house remix in January. That's typically when our kids are gonna have a different elective teachers, and so this would be an incentive for parents to wanna come back and meet these new faces that are gonna be seeing their kids. And then also we're hoping by that time we're gonna have this idea of this uniform way that we're gonna communicate with our parents better. And so this would be another opportunity too for our parents to receive that contact information and get in the loop, get hooked. So that's our draw. We're hoping to get our parents to want to come. We're going to offer tickets when they do come, and we'll use that for some incentive. We're not sure. We're going to poll the kids is what we're going to do. We're going to poll our students and find out what they're motivated to have, whether it be,
Wearing the athletic wear.
wear an athletic wear one day or whatever. Like, they're interesting little things. They'll decide what they like and what motivates them. So we're gonna let them decide that. But we know at the middle school literacy is a major problem. And so we were thinking, what is that one thing that connects all of our different classes together? And that's vocabulary. Like, if we can get them to up their vocabulary, and that is something parents can do. Like, parents are always like, well, how can I help, especially in the upper grades? Vocabulary is one of those things. And so we were hoping to have them come in. They'll already have their kids' schedule. So all they're going to have to do is report to that homeroom teacher. And then whenever they sign in, we'll have that welcome activity. Ms. Smith said that it would be great if when they do their sign-in, have them fill out a postcard, their address to their postcard, and then after the whole thing's over, the teacher can just write that little, and that's your home touch, to send it right back out. Thanks so much for coming, that sort of thing. So that's building that school and home relationship. So vocabulary is our big idea. But we want to build on our parents' strengths. They know their kids. They a lot of times know what works best for their kid. They know if they got a mover, if they've got someone who needs to write repetitious or whatever. So we're going to offer them multiple strategies to do this vocabulary with their kids. We're going to give them the word list. There's tons of those online. So we're going to have that word list, that Lexile word list for the 7th and the 8th grade. So it's differentiated. And so one could be to model Quizlet and have them create a Quizlet or see a Quizlet. We're going to give them a packet that's going to have that resource, a QR to that resource, but then also just give them flashcard supplies so that they can just do old-fashioned, flashcards with them. And then we want to have them, by building this community, we're going to do like a scavenger hunt of how do I get in touch with the teacher, how can I find this on the website, how can I check my grades, and this is where they're going to be working together. So they're going to be building that network with parents. We're going to have translators on hand. We'll have all the documents that we hand out. We're going to have in the different languages that are necessary or needed. And we're going to train our staff in faculty meetings, that sort of thing. We talked about the motions, teaching them vocabulary using the motions as that kinetic learner. And then at the end, they'll fill out that exit survey, and that's when they'll get their ticket when they exit.
Good job.
Good.
Good job. Yeah, I like the idea of a couple of different strategies based on how your child learns. I would suggest though, just don't go
Right.
overboard with that, because then you're gonna overwhelm. But I would maybe pick one strategy in each kind of learning style, or maybe here's a way that you can draw with vocabulary, here's a way you can use your old fashioned, those kinds of things. So don't choke on the elephant, right?
Right.
One bite at a time. I heard you say it at this table, the theme is being intentional, right, with each of these 6 process conditions. So, building relationships, make sure that you have a clear process for welcoming your families, right? And if you're gonna split them up into different groups, maybe when you welcome them, I mentioned this a couple of times, using name tags with different colors or different stickers, those are great ways and easy ways to group like grades or like classes together. Be intentional with that. Be intentional with preparing your staff on what your expectations are and what strategies you're using for welcoming because if they don't feel welcome, if families don't feel welcome when they walk in the door, they ain't never coming back. Okay?
That's true, I've seen everything.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I've seen everything, because when I was working for ABTT, we used to go and see those family events, and I've seen teachers like, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
They're coming back.
And
We have everybody like.
And you could probably attest to this too. I mentioned this, I'm gonna repeat it again because it's so important. About your expectations. Please don't be disappointed if you don't get a big response right away. Be diligent, be patient, be intentional. Keep doing the process here, right? When you keep practicing, it becomes our culture, right? Culture takes a whole lot longer to change than the climate in our building. And that's gonna be a process. So please don't give up if it doesn't happen in the first couple of events.
And you have to be very strategic. I've seen also like a lot of strategies for increasing that parents' participation. For example, there was in one of the schools, they have the students excited about something they wrote. Let's say a poem about their family, and then that writing was going to be in their desk, and they have their parents excited about going to the school to see what they wrote about their parents. So kids were like, you have to go, you're gonna see whatever I did, and then they make those parents come. There was another, it was for Thanksgiving, kids wrote in their little hands things that they were thankful for their parents, but their parents were so excited about finding those hands, because the teachers made the kids excited about it. Like, your parents are going to see these, they're gonna need to find their little hand, blah, blah, and the parents were excited. And there was like so many parents like just waiting to find their little hand, yeah. So it's just being strategic, and you don't need to think about big things, sometimes those little things will work.
It's so easy to overthink this process. Like, we're gonna, what we're about to do here before lunch and after is the bigger picture. But keep this simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep it simple.
I just a few things. Something that would be really strategic and smart as far as getting other places in town to donate. The first of the month is typically when people are willing to donate, because that's when they're getting ready to start over with their tax deductible things. Always have a piece of paper with your school letterhead and specifically what they're donating to, and they'll be more apt to donate to what you're doing. But if you don't do all of these at the same time, that would be beneficial for you getting donations and for allowing parents who have children in multiple schools to participate in all of them, not just one of them. And even Miss Askew said she would love to help at Radney that night, just to see how you do it, and volunteer. So if it's not on the same night, then you might even pull teachers from another school that would love to help and just grow and learn from one another.
And we even have parents, you know, that don't have children at home, that would love to do.
And the children would love seeing their past teachers.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, that would
And
be
it
sweet.
builds the community.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of getting teachers from other schools that the kids are going to see to come to the younger schools to start building that trust and relationship. And another thing, you know, we had said as far as having a separate location for those who don't speak English, but you know, we're part of a movement that has churches in over 135 nations, and so when we all come together, you've got 12,000 people of all different ethnicities and backgrounds and languages, and we do the headsets where you can translate very quickly. If that is an option, I didn't know that was even an option here. If that is an option, I think that that's nice to have to feel inclusive, and you don't have to worry about having to translate, you know, so many translators and things. It keeps it more of an inclusive environment, and it makes people feel like, you know, we stated yesterday that a lot of the time the Spanish-speaking families look at educators as you're way up here and I'm way down here, or you know, those type of things that would help create that climate of inclusiveness and community versus having the separate times. And the last thing I was gonna say, as far as the encouragement aspect, our state overseer says this all the time, and I love it. He says, be willing to plant trees that you will never sit under the shade of. So if we keep that mindset of, you know, it may not happen overnight, it may not happen this year, maybe next year, it may not really have anything to do with me. It may just be the fact that I'm a volunteer, but be willing to do the hard stuff, be willing to do the work, even if you don't get
That's
the benefit
sustainable,
of it.
yeah, I love that.
And I want to say something about the food. Sometimes you can be really simple about it. Like, I remember one teacher, she used to just have popcorn. And that smell in that classroom was amazing. So, little cups, popcorn, that's it. And there was another teacher, and this was in Creighton, like where like the 98 of the population is the Mexican origin. But this teacher used to have like salsa contest. Not salsa, the other salsa. Chips and salsa. So she was like each parent was in charge of bringing like their favorite recipe for the salsa, and then she only bought like chips. And then at the end, they made a contest to see which salsa was the best one, that we can do dip and crackers, for example. And then everyone will bring something, and then they will enjoy, like have fun, share the recipes, whatever. You know, have a good time, have their stomach fill up a little bit, and then go home.
Call it a family fiesta.
Yeah, like something. So you just be strategic. You don't need a big meal. If you can have it, great. But you don't have to be.
The last thing that I'll say about this template that we have given you is we want to take every opportunity we have to connect with our families what our children are learning, okay? And there are some events that are just really nice to have, but we want to make sure that we're evaluating our past practice through the lens of what we are learning in these 6 process conditions, okay? Questions? I hope it wasn't too frustrating to rush through that the way that we did, that maybe you've got some ideas and resources to be able to really truly build that. And get more parent voice, more family voice as you're planning these events, so that you start to create this climate and culture of co-creation. Break? We're gonna start 10 on the dot. You got 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Good job, y'all.
Clear, I know that.
Yeah, I already sent her about myself.
Yeah, she's always I didn't realize she was going, but she said she wasn't.
No, I got the information, and I'm not like, the kids last night, they were like,
This is specifically just whatever this is, this is a principal thing. See, the other stuff is registration.
questions are in, I'll try to get everybody's stuff on there. Yeah, I'm gonna do it at the end, I'm gonna do a check survey at 11.
So like I said, I was like, so they can't have title with me. I was like, I set aside for money to lose, and then we can set aside just for stuff like that. She was like, then we worked out.
4 and 5 and 8.
Yep. So you know that. And it feel like, because I was like, well, I mean, they told me that they well, that's good. I was like, well, that's why she was up there. And I was like, that's the other plan for it. Need to know. Like, I don't know.
And that's right down there. We don't know. It's not that she gives us. She just assumes that
Within that class. I think that would be
Pictures, squeeze together.
Yeah, not all that.
she has no idea what this is.
They need to learn. That's why I like it when there's teachers that like
No, you're good, and I have my face account for ACU.
You get pictures.
Thank you.
and then a camper. It's like Christmas.
So you have their email and phone number.
I got it. I got it already.
Oh, okay.
And I did it.
The next time I have to do it.
I did that.
I mean, it is, that's what I was like, you know, you gotta have fun. And when your parents miss you, it's a different level of busy. This is like real life from when you're there. You know, it's not like, it's just expected. I mean, it was so hard. So it's harder to raise to get out there and right.
After that, it was over.
It's just one of those. You don't know the ass.
Oh, no, yeah.
And I don't mind asking. I have a big mouth.
Oh, really?
I'm sorry.
That's a big green. I thought it was
You wouldn't have been like,
So is your cowboy.
I know, right? And my job, so it's a.
You got to get fired, so you got to go.
They're showing out.
Yeah, yeah. Are you serious? Yeah, so what we're gonna do is rotate probably the same.
And sometimes people be like, I'm just, you know what, I know it's just about the hair, come over.
yeah, but you're
You
good
gotta work
at
with me,
that.
I gotta work with him, we don't forget every time. But I think it's funny though, and I can't tell sometimes you got serious about it.
So I
He picked it right.
where we go. This car ain't fast as the rest of ours.
Girl, I am.
Alright, Adam. Like, just it.
Yes, you did. So that's why we gotta have to get you started early.
But Chris is gonna send out a survey and make sure that they gets it to the parents. So I'll make sure. You know how valuable piece of this.
Bye, y'all. Appreciate ya. All right, I gotta go. I said the J-O-B. I said they've been without me too.
How do we all break it apart? How do we do it? Do what? And we'll start breaking our work. And so there's a plan.
My girls, Stephen's in Miami, Samantha lives here. And Jasmine and all.
Okay, please don't. Get better, I promise. Come on, 10 minutes. Okay, y'all do.
Is in Miami, because he had a baby while, you know. But y'all real right now.
We're moving, not slow, but this year's going to be. We're all on the same page.
Yeah, she works at Spectrum, you probably seen her in Spectrum. Sit down. Okay. And hard work. Well, please be.
I hate to leave y'all, but I gotta go.
Well, we like this right
Anticipatory, yeah. All right, guys, let's get back together. All right, guys.
You need to take a picture. Only had one card.
So you guys just took an event and started retooling it, right? That's what we call it. Reimagine, retool, whichever one you want to call it. And the foundation of what we were doing is built on those 6 process conditions, right? And through those 6 process conditions, where that rubber meets the road, a couple things happen. We begin to build confidence in each other, right? Educator, because we said, you remember the challenge that Marty told us about? There's challenges on both sides of the fence. And so we're building confidence within our educators to more efficiently create partnerships with our families, have the pathways to be able to initiate that. And we're also learning where we can support one another, right? Because families have valuable information to give us about their children, and we have valuable strategies that can help tap into those strengths. So, having said that, and I mentioned this a little earlier because we're trying to get in the weeds a little bit, we're going to kind of take a step back and jump up on the balcony a little bit and begin to look at the rest of our day more strategically in the larger picture. And we're going to use our data, and some of you have already done this, so this seems a little duplicative, but we're not going to spend as much time on this because you're already doing this. Normally, you would have just reported your homework of an activity that you retooled, and then we would take that information and move forward. So it might be best, I feel like, and you can change this up if you need to, but I feel like the learning goal that you identified in this one activity is probably the data set that you want to really look at, right? So if you said vocabulary is an issue, go back into your data, your school improvement plan, whatever it says, go back into there and pull out the exact data piece, right? So maybe it's 38% of our second graders are not doing X, right? So you want to look at that data specifically. We're just going to address one learning issue in this larger plan. So you can look at the plan that we're going to start with is on page 5. And along the way, so it's going to be most helpful and most time efficient, and I love all the conversation that you guys are having, but I'm going to push you to kind of stay on task so that we can make sure that we touch all of these. We may not be able to finish this plan. We're going to touch all of these, okay? So if you want to start looking at page 5 of day 3, we're gonna select one grade level. What grade level do you think is your biggest concern? I'm gonna leave the slide up here as you start thinking about this, okay? What grade level in your school building is the biggest concern?
They're the ones that really didn't have normal days since.
We're looking at page 5.
And they know what I expect.
I would start with the beginning. I feel like that's where you start thinking what you need.
And once you decide that grade level, what subject area, and then this is where your school improvement plan comes in, right? That's not something that should be dusty on the shelf. In addition to your school improvement plan, what other data pieces do you have to help you drill down? And then what grade level team is most ready to do the work? So let's take about 5 or 6 minutes. And y'all narrow down those things. Yeah, so we're gonna work through page 5. Keep these questions in mind.
It lasts a year, so when did he have it?
Right, we're talking last year, but it's expired.
Well, it's going from elementary to secondary. That's the big thing. Because parents need to understand, there is a difference between elementary and secondary. We don't care what they have. You just don't have to have a lot of money. But I mean, it's just not that. Even the supports are different at the lower level.
No, ma'am.
Are you ready?
Text the math. Talking about what areas that they need to focus on our math reading and
We're not gonna overthink it, right?
And the next, and the third workshop.
Because I will say,
We're
it's
doing-
expected of them to go from holding on to being, I feel like seventh grade, maybe that's when you and Bradley guys are gonna have to look at RE on that. I don't know if it's possible to, but if not, that's when you take your seventh graders and start slowly incorporating.
The biggest overall thing that we're looking to do
Not the same kind, I guess, I mean, not like real.
They don't have a science lab. Do they have? Do they have a specific science?
Yeah.
So they teach, they probably do social studies part of the time, and then they'll do science part of the time, every day.
Right, so that's what Mrs. Silver was talking about, right, the facilities that they're
Because it's not what they think it's gonna be. And they They learn how to struggle more with science this year, but I love it.
They get a physical science again at high school. If they don't. Well, unless they're not.
If they're not, if they don't.
But like you were saying, if you're and then there's something where you have a class where you need to know things. It's hard to when I was graduating stuff, I was learning I didn't get taught much.
I said class, he was like, no problem.
I guess that goes back to that's why you start with your 7th graders, you know, because then you see where those deficiencies are. I mean, really.
So we go back to our school improvement, our ready data, our ACAP data, literacy. All of them. She didn't know that we were gonna have Google. Or what is it, the everything button on the Chromebook now? What is that? Mash it and then everything pops up and whatever you might need. Google. There's no problem having everything, but it's got a little magnifying glass and you just hit it and it'll detect everything. That's how they advertised yesterday.
Thank you. Lovely. Okay, so what do we need? I was looking up iPad.
Is that one of the days Miss Razzle was talking about everybody trying to take off?
Are you there? No?
A bit more.
All right, let's do another minute or two, okay?
What's the current performance time?
It's your lunch.
So 7th grade, what is that percentage?
I like it when it asks you and then she that's a typical one. I do it too. And I think, why did you even ask me? I wanted to see what you do.
ACAP data, is that where I need to go to my drive?
Yeah, I have the thing, well, it didn't have the overall. I don't know if that's the overall.
I remember
I got already, that's.
I read it.
But it's got them all.
See, I already put this beginning here, but this year, it helps us.
There's a price in,
And when they do it at the beginning of the diagnostic, it's gonna give them their learning goals of like their stretch and their. It's really, and it breaks it down.
in a donut, with sugar all over it.
So when you say we have, I know she's gonna be sick.
And then where it's
is that what we mean?
What is that?
That's what I would prefer, that's why I like to.
This is our 7th grade last year, they're 8th grade. So this would be their whole class.
They like D hyphen, I like it. Tell them what you like.
No, this is just a teacher, this isn't a group. So the 7th graders
And
last
there's a guy
year.
downtown deal with everybody telling me.
This is their data.
In reading was 30%. On 7th graders proficient.
On level.
Yes, grade.
Only that.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason I'll tell you
When they get this year.
I don't have this year. This is A.
Oh, no.
This is a state
But see,
class.
that's why we use already, because we can get more
in Birmingham.
formative as we're going.
Okay, but this is the 7th grade last year. She's not giving us the 7th grade. But we could, no, she didn't have that. Remember, she didn't have the, she said she was gonna have to get that. And she's never given us that.
That is for, so teachers in each subject have standards they have to teach. And so each 9 weeks, they have standards. And so the idea is that benchmark is seeing what percentage of those kids mastered those standards that were taught in that 9-month period. So your already is gonna have all of those standards together.
But it's still separate tabs.
Yes.
So you guys don't like do like an average or anything?
Out of all the 3 different tabs.
I just wonder, yeah, because it's something like that, if they know it's not something that they really get a grade on,
That's the struggle.
like as a boy, my kid's probably like.
That's the struggle. And that's why we try to.
I think it's part of the possibility.
That's what I love about this, like this,
You know about
See, already versus academics are very, very close. Okay, 30% is on level, 26% is on level from last year. So you've got 70% of the kids are not. So that's what we're trying to do, because it's going to affect their math, and that's why they're making this so, math is important. Let's just, math is
Okay, guys, we need to move on. Ready? Okay. So here's our sample. And what Maricela is going to do after this with you is kind of, the example is built off of this. So in our example, we have 4th grade is the grade that we want to focus on. Literacy is the subject area or concept area, and nonfiction comprehension is where we want to focus our time. And what our data tells us is that 67% are below proficiency in our state assessment. Okay? Does your paper look similar to this? Everybody feel good about it? You may not feel good about the results, but you feel good about the process. Let me clarify.
Results, no.
Okay. So from here, we're about to shake it up.
All right, so how many of you are familiar with Maps? Like it, right? Some people call them circle maps for the thinking maps, right? So mind maps are just a tool to brainstorm. And when we brainstorm, it is a good idea to kind of, put anything that comes to your mind. So what we're going to do with that example that we're going to use, I'm going to show you the 3 steps that we're going to use to create that and select what is the strategy that we're gonna use with our parents. So, in this mind map, the first thing that we're going to do is to put the standard that we're gonna work on in the middle. So it's going to be 4th grade comprehension nonfiction. So the first step is completing that mind map. So in the middle, we're going to put what our students are not proficient with. And in your case, it was numbers and operations, addition, and we found that 80-some% of the students were not grade level. Like one student was a grade level. All right. So I want you to remember the 3 steps that we're going to do. Step number 1, complete the mind map. What is it, step number 1?
Complete the mind map.
I used to be a second grade teacher.
What is
What
the
is
step?
step number 1?
Complete the mind map.
All right. So tell me some of the things that you think will prevent students from understand nonfiction text.
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
Prior knowledge.
Prior knowledge about
Whatever
in that text. Okay. So it could be like strategies to work with the text. Maybe?
Or if they've never even heard about what that text is talking about. I mean, I know we have a lot of students that have never been to the lake. So some of they wouldn't know what we were talking about. You know, so prior knowledge, but we have a lot that do have prior knowledge, so the vocabulary is gonna be a lot easier for them, so that their prior knowledge is, I mean, it's stuff.
Okay, so vocabulary, prior knowledge, what else? What else?
Grade level text. I said the grade level text. Like, you know, they're not on grade level, you know, and that text is on grade level, that would be something that would be hard
So
for
they
them.
don't have the fluency,
Yeah,
right?
that's gonna say fluent.
They don't have the fluency. What else? What else?
Strategies of maybe chunking the text.
They don't have the strategies to work with the text. Anything else here? What is something that can make students not to understand or be so low in comprehension nonfiction? They can read a grade level.
Yeah.
Because if they read at 1st grade level and they get a text that is at 4th grade level, they're not going to know what to do with that, right? What else?
She was saying that they could be fed, they can have a dyslexia.
Learning disabilities. All right, so let's see what some of the things that they found.
You can turn the light off so y'all
Okay, so one is students' lack of concrete strategies to comprehend expository text. So, for example, one strategy can be close reading. So they don't know how to even like things so easy as find paragraph number 2. And the students are they don't even know what is a paragraph, you know? Even those little strategies, they don't have. Let me see what else we have here. Students are not interested in nonfiction books. Is that something that could happen? They like fiction better than nonfiction? Lack of current high interest in nonfiction titles in the library. So the nonfiction books that we have are not really, they don't like them. The students have difficulty figuring out text vocabulary, what you guys said. Students lack of background knowledge on the topic, right? Students struggle with structures different from narrative in the text. Staff are unsure of reader support nonfiction text provide. Parents lack of motivation or time to share nonfiction stories. lack of PD for teachers on comprehending expository text. So this is a lot of like ideas, right? Sometimes as teachers, we don't have like the knowledge about reading to kind of teach our students to read, right? I remember when I became a special education teacher, I realized that I didn't have the strategies to teach my students to read. So I went ahead and got another certification as a reading specialist, so I can really help my students to read. So sometimes our teachers are not prepared for that. But we're going to see what we're going to do with this. Do you think, is there anything else that we should add to this? No?
Well, in our school, okay, the teachers are compartmentalized. So we have teachers that teach science. Okay, they were not trained on how to teach reading. It's just like what you're saying. So we're having to pull them in and give them the strategy. I'm a fourth grade teacher, so I was taught at an elementary level. I know the methods of teaching it all. But they were not. They were taught at a secondary. Same way with our high school. There are still some strategies that our high school has to pull in, even for the comprehension, the reading level. So we have to look at the secondary. The elementary has it. I mean, yeah.
Well,
you might
let
enjoy
me
math
say.
better than reading.
Just gonna be
Yeah,
honest.
some people enjoy math better than they do reading and so forth. But you still have the strategies. Secondary doesn't have any of that. All they had was the content. So we've got to have some, like you said, the professional development of how to even start, just like your special ed.
All right.
We only have one special ed class too for us. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So, but we were saying that we're creating these mind map to select some of the strategies that the parents are going to help us with, right? So now we need all of the brainstorming with all of the causes of the roots that we could think about that is impeding for the students to be good at nonfiction comprehension, right? But now we're going to select the ones that we think are the families can help with. All right. So what was this step number 1?
Complete the
Complete the map. Yeah, complete the map. Okay, step number 2. We're going off these ideas that we generate. We're going to select the ones that families can help with. So, and remember, we don't want to create like reading teachers at home. We need to keep in mind any of these strategies that we can build that capacity so parents can help us. All right? So let's see how many of these we can use. All right, so these are the ones that they think parents can help us with. Students' lack of background knowledge on the topic. What do you think? How can parents help us with that? Do you think that's something that parents can help? Some of them, if we build their capacity? Maybe? All right. Lack of models, seeing others using nonfiction text.
Yeah.
Yes? No?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Jason?
Yeah.
Yes. Students are not interested in nonfiction book choices. Yes, no, maybe? And what if the library doesn't have like good choices?
We have a free library
come to
in
Radney.
town.
Can parents help us with that?
Yeah, they know what their child is interested in, spark it through their interest.
Yeah.
Library in town.
All right, students choose to read fewer non-fiction books. Yes? Maybe parents can help with that?
Yes.
Yes. ELL learners lack experience with expository text. Parents lack time, motivation to share non-fiction stories. Yes? Yeah? Maybe yes? And students spend less time reading nonfiction text. I think there's something, right? And students have difficulty figuring out the vocabulary. Can parents help with the vocabulary? Okay, let's see what we have here. So, remember, what was step number 2?
I think it's about that parents can help them.
Okay, perfect.
Very good.
Very good. Number 3, we're gonna select the top 3 that parents can help with, right? And we have to be very strategic. We need to really think like of the materials that you're gonna have, the resources that you have, so you can select those 3. All right? So let's see what we have. Which ones are the ones that are going to make the biggest impact?
It's really small.
Yeah. Students spend less time reading nonfiction text. That's definitely a one, right?
You think that's low hanging fruit? Yeah, that's what we wanna look for, right?
Yeah. Give them
Quick wins.
Students are not interested in nonfiction book choices. How can we help with that?
Would you repeat that?
Can you repeat that?
Students are not interested in nonfiction book choices.
I think it's like what Tabitha said, find what they're interested in and then find nonfiction books written on that. For instance, if you haven't, and I'm not stereotyping, but athletes historically don't like to read. But like if they're a basketball, I know. But if they're a basketball player and you get them, biographies on Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, or just on the game of basketball, the history of basketball, that's nonfiction text. So they're reading about something they're interested in, they don't realize it's nonfiction, but you can grow it. But it's finding what they're interested in and the nonfiction that's written about those topics.
Yeah, you're right. And I remember I was never like interested in biographies, and now I love them.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I was a right.
What I'm trying to do is everything that you guys are teaching us. I'm trying to gather the things that at the middle school for the parents that don't even put their numbers in Power School, don't want to be reached. The parents that they have bad experience from 3rd grade on up to right now. I'm not playing devil's advocate. What I'm trying to do is, when I do something, I don't know about anybody in here, I want to make sure I reach every student to fidelity. And I try to make sure that the parents that I have often call are the ones with behavior issues that don't want to be contacted. How do we incorporate these things small when it comes to the literacy, the dropping out of high school, dropping out of elementary, to make sure all family are able to be able to participate, or majority didn't have.
And that's the reason why we said we have been telling you that we have to be strategic.
Right, and so, yeah, I just want some smaller ideas, because when I go back and I talk with the principal, I'm not talking to the principal to make sure we just talking. These ideas that, the parent and, my coworkers are actually talking about, I'm trying to really take it in to implement this. But I gotta also understand the realistic goals. And so, go ahead.
One of the questions in the form that you guys, can I see it? The form that you guys just filled out, it says that what is your grade, team? What is the team?
It was on there, but it's that quite.
Yeah, it's not on this.
Oh, okay.
What grade level team
What
is
grade-
ready to implement this, ready to.
What grade level team do you think can implement this? And then, let's say, because you can start little by little. So you can say, for example, you guys are 5th and 6th?
7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Yes.
So let's say that your 7th grade team, you have new teachers, you have one teacher that is, I don't know, she likes conflict, so that's probably not the teacher, your grade level teacher, like leader is.
Nobody like that around here.
It's not the best teacher, probably is a great teacher, but it's not the best teacher to like start this program. But in 8th grade, you have a team that probably will go for it. So you will start with 8th grade, right? And then you start probably with your open house. And then you do like one first meeting, like go little by little. And then you choose one strategy and choose one strategy that is not that difficult. So go little by little and plan a lot. Make sure that you plan and you incorporate like a lot of your staff in making that plan.
I think one of the best incentives for middle school is those hooks. What kind of hooks can we throw out there? I love the phrase a minute ago, not teaching them this is a fish, but teaching them how to fish is so important. So those hooks of bringing those parents that have had those bad connections, whatever, they don't care. They want to just give their kid to you because they're a discipline problem, whatever. Okay, we both know that they're a discipline problem because they're here. We got it. We're on the same page on that. But how can we work together? I think that's the hook, but getting them there to talk about that. So what's the hook of getting them there to talk about that? I think that's the question that you answer, that small thing that you answer. So an incentive, how can you get them there?
Well, I just would like to add, I mean, we all have families who don't update their information or don't give you information. And so what Mr. Brooks is talking is like, maybe 20% of the 8th grade class that he wants to focus on, he has no relationship with the families. And I think we have to accept that not everybody is going to go on board with this in the beginning. And part of what we have to do with families who we have trouble reaching or getting information from is begin to build those relationships. And they may not ever do anything on these strategies at home, but it may benefit the high school, right? Because we're planting. Your metaphors, right? You're watering. We're watering, and what I wrote up on the parking lot that I want to make sure we talk about is there is beautiful opportunity here in the spring for when you do your school improvement planning to pull this entire bunch together and talk about the challenges that your students are having, because what's happening, K2, right? What's happening right there ends up here in a few years, right? So again, starting with building relationships and finding the simple wins. And it's gonna take time.
And the thing I think, if we start doing it here and pulling, because this is when they want to come to school, the parents. And if we do good cultivating here, then next year they can keep it up. And then by the time they get to you, maybe you're gonna have a bigger influx of parents.
Yeah. And in the meantime, because we always say that when they get to teenage years, it's not a lot, I hear that so often, it's not a lot that can be done and all this, but we just can't throw them away at that age. We've got to try to step in and do something. And so for those numbers that you don't have, then I'll be glad to scoop you up and go make a few home visits. I've done that over the last several years when I couldn't get in touch with somebody. Yeah. So, because I think it is very important, like we mentioned the other day, that the parents who don't have the opportunity of the transportation to get here are definitely the parents who need to be here. Yeah. Because if we can just get 2 or 3 of them and they go back and talk to the people that they, that's in their cycle, you know what I'm saying? When they talk to their friends, they are going to be our best market piece, because they're going to say, okay, like they're for real, because we have a great percentage of parents in the community who really don't think that we really care about their children. They think we just getting a check so we can be out 3 months a year. you know, and you hear that so often, and they really believe that. And so if they see us, you know, come and knock on a door, and you know, some doors we can't knock on, we just gonna have to pray about that. But I can tell you what it is too, you know, but we can go out, you know, just go out to 2 or 3 places, and all they need to see us is just 1 or 2 times just coming out knocking on the door, you know, and say, you know, hey, we really wanted to get in touch with you because we have this organization that we're trying to put together. We really want you to be a part of it because they need to be here, because some things that children do, I can't fathom in my mind how or why this could happen, because I know I would be locked up if my child did some of these things. So I can't understand that. But I need to talk to someone who deals with this so I can see where you're coming from and how this comes into play. You know.
What about going to them on your, building up to what you said, instead of having the event in the school or doing our stuff in the school, go to, if transportation is a problem,
I was waiting until the end of the day to say that. Because that was one of the things.
Ms. Hurd has shared with me, she has done home visits, and there's some home visits that she's told me that she can't even go without a police escort. She's been cussed out of houses, she's been cussed off of properties, and so I don't think that the middle school's not tried that.
But she
I think they
goes.
have.
I mean, I'm aware of this. I mean, I'm just coming from
Right, I know.
realistic
You
approach
need some
on
more ideas.
trying to implement. Yes,
But
because
coming back to what you were saying, excuse me,
Go
sir,
ahead.
I'm sorry. But that was one of the things that I thought about at the end of Monday and all day yesterday, and I was just waiting on the appropriate time. Like these meetings that we have, instead of inviting the parents to the school, go to Cooper Recreation Center, host a meeting there. Go to the Sportsplex gym, host a meeting there, because then we're on even ground. You know, when we invite them into the school, then we still have this leverage. But when we go into the community and invite them there, then they feel more at ease and more at home. Then I'm not saying we're not gonna invite them to our home, at our schools, but let's go out there and let them know that we're that serious about this thing, that we're coming to you.
I would say give out information at the games. You know, we got football, basketball, those parents come to those games. But we can give out stuff then, or, you know, even pamphlets, or
Update
hey,
your
this is our
information card here.
our calendar, you know. But, you know, giving them at football, basketball games, those kind of things, parents coming, you know.
And I
They'll
think-
find rides most of the time, sometimes.
I think it's important to note what has been said at some of the schools when they're talking about when they're gonna do their night, is they're like, we're gonna dress down. Look, we dress professional because we are creating that level of professionalism between us and our students. That when we're with those parents, we've got to be on common ground. We gotta be on the same level with those parents, and I think that is not your night that you dress to the T to impress, because you're not there to impress those parents. You're there to create that meaningful relationship with those parents. Just a thought.
So, I wanted to say 2 things. Number 1, I keep telling you the same thing. Be strategic. Get your kids involved. Tell me, like, what is the event when you have the more parents attendance? Isn't that concerts, for example, when the kids perform?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when we used to have, before COVID, but we would have like Veterans Day program, Black History program. When I say we had, cause you know, at Stevenson I was a teacher, but we would try to get as many kids involved as possible. You know, even the band, you know, we would get the band, like at Radney, get them involved. That'll get all their parents there and all this other stuff. So we'd get lots and lots of people.
So, get your music teacher involved to make all of the kids in the grade level are going to sing. Everybody. And they're going to sing a song in the middle of the meeting, because if you do it at the beginning, they're going to come, watch them leave. And the second thing is that this is going to be a lot of work. So you have to make sure that you do something to make sure that your parents are coming. Because if not, your teachers are going to be devastated.
Yeah.
It is going to be horrible. After all of this work, after having, you know, the materials, everything ready to have 2 parents. So make sure that you think about something that you can do to have those parents there. It doesn't matter if they think they're gonna come only for the concert. Put something together, you know, concert in the middle, then you do your activities. I don't know, we talked about a lot of things. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. So
Yeah?
what I'm doing is when I gather, just because I don't write, but I'm gathering everything because I want to sit down and have a conversation with Ms. Hurd to make sure that we implement this the right way and with a team.
Good, and you can always call us. We
Yes.
gave you, our cards and take a picture because we didn't bring them in. All right,
Even in our
so,
grade level, we could go to their sporting events, cause those kids play soccer and t-ball and football, flag football and all that.
Talk about building relationships, man.
so for the step number 3, which was
Top three.
top 3 that your parents can do successfully. And for that, you need to think about the training that you're gonna need to do to your parents, the materials that you're gonna need, you can optimize those families with their talents and backgrounds, right? Can you see success? Is there any way that you can measure this? Because, for example, with that, students choosing more nonfiction books, you probably cannot measure that, but you can measure their progress on nonfiction comprehension, right?
Maybe through the media center though, she could, like, at the start, have a baseline date and then see how many more nonfiction texts have been checked out. You know, that's one way to measure. Can't guarantee they read it, but at least they're checking it out.
That access.
All right, so we are going to create our mind map. And we were supposed now to stand up and talk about the 3 steps, but I think they can.
I think you got it, yeah.
You got it? Yes? What is
One?
the first,
Yeah, oh, sorry.
first step?
Complete the mind map.
Complete the mind map.
Number 2?
Identify the strategies that can help.
And 3?
Select the top strategies.
All right.
You guys are overachievers.
So this is your time to create your mind map, and then we're gonna have. This is 5.
Oh, on the mind map? Y'all get started, we'll figure out the time. We put the chart paper, on, yeah, you can use, you're gonna present to us, so, use your chart paper so we can put up on the wall. Alright, you got 30 minutes, okay?
She was so dry. She got waxed.
Make sure you put your school name on your poster too.
I thought so, I brought that up. And like when they're together and she's a guy or whatever, and like he's asking her to dance or drink or something. Aren't they making that into the movie? Sorry, that was side note. She wanted to the 7th grade one or whatever. So we do the mind map on here. That's the purpose, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Well, I will try to make it. Y'all know that's hard though.
Awesome.
Does it have to be that many? I mean, does it have to be, are we just gonna kind of go with it? Okay.
Information here.
It's gonna be the 7th grade.
So you're saying, content is our structure.
Are we doing it just, okay.
Look at you.
Say it again, 7th and 8th grade.
And so now we're just brainstorming why. What are reasons?
I took a picture of one of those. I have some kind of idea of what we were working
So we identified three things, so, and they were any of ours.
Okay.
Particular student.
Doing any of them.
Had a
Okay.
extended spring break.
So what's one of those?
Miss Campbell, Miss Campbell.
Because that consists of our fund, take action of our
Yeah.
Some of it is technical lingo.
Reading on general grade level. Yeah.
Should those go together? Or separate?
Yeah, those are separate.
Retention and call. Retention and call, deficit.
And then what? What'd you say, fluency?
We're just doing all of it, and then we're gonna choose.
I figure I can go back with another one and like, maybe highlight the important ones.
For the three.
Heck, that's kind of hard.
You would know it if you, what is it,
Yeah, little
you would know all of this stuff. What else?
I don't know. Fluency.
So y'all put fluency, what do you need in
Look,
order
I'm
to
gonna
be
put motivation over here.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
you have to be motivated. All these. Like, I wasn't motivated to read a lot. That doesn't look right, is that right?
Do you, think,
I'm telling you, I was
Adding
she
to
knows
that.
a lot of
Numbers
things,
can
because
recognize.
there's one thing to be a special educator, and another to be a fluency coach.
Teacher training.
and I think, I know background really strategies for reading or like what they were, and I think just exposure. I mean, background knowledge is one thing, but exposure to those kinds of books, a magazine, quality, access to dictation.
I will say that little free library that they had in St. Carlisle for a while, I loved it so much, and we always would get a new book every book, you know, and now it's not there. Oh, yeah, and they're not doing
But I don't think
that box isn't there, but I mean, if I can figure out a way to start it back, I would. It was an old newspaper box, so that's why I was curious how that happened, because I was like, did you get permission to pay? Like, somebody, well, her husband's at home, so. I guess I can send it to you.
Is it
I'm just like, should I add they do? My thing is that they don't. Do you know why?
well, I take that part of it, but a lot of it is your teacher buy-in. And so your English teachers are like, it's got a motivation, they're good at challenge, but they motivate because the teachers are telling them we're gonna do this. And so they're willing to for that reason.
That's just,
And that's a lot of it.
I was gonna say, but I mean, that's a separate, I mean, it's not just some, that's, only we can do that. I mean,
mean, it doesn't matter what y'all do, we don't, I mean.
Parents, because we'll just read
What am I trying to think of? All right, so like when you're building your
Because we tend to walk toward our flood, our entertainment when it comes to things like first day we did the article.
Yeah, that's in all aspects of life, like, I need to increase my stability as far as my cardio, do I do it all the time? Do I enjoy it all the time?
And look, so, they don't.
My husband
But
does
that's
for sure.
it, they
I do too.
I do too.
I do too. My husband's already halfway put it together.
But that's
We take it apart and then have to do it again.
You gotta do it.
Yes. I did this week.
Don't nobody want to ask for help. I do.
I don't think whatever, that we know everything that we're
Put it all together before he gets home.
That's what I do. Kids all the time. So I keep the book. I said, this is what we're on. Look, I laid all the stuff out. That's what they do. Like everything.
I know. I can see you organizing like the 5 million screws and everything.
It's funny that I say that. I didn't do it.
Like a whole tree.
What happened was, they didn't label. So yes, I was looking and counting the circles and got to the last piece. It's funny.
That person needs to be fired.
The last piece wasn't the right piece.
No, the last piece, everything was finished. The finishing part, and the last piece at the bottom, I put it on the unfinished part. I said, I got to finish. It was a bunch of them.
See, and I wouldn't have been able to handle that like
My
that.
wife read so that's the important part about it. It took longer for me to put it together without labeling.
I think that's such a good example for this too, when you have to undo something that somebody else, and then you have to go backwards before you can ever move forward. So the time spent, and the kids feel like they're failing, they're not feeling like they're doing something good, and so do they really want to, like,
Do it again.
yeah, like if I'm already doing this wrong, what makes me want to do it? So now are we supposed to pick like 3 main
and then the top three.
So we highlight what.
Get them going. Because they're not motivated, really. They're not going to, we can tell them whatever, because they don't take it long. Any materials from
Yes, parents can help with that, but have the reading. So put a star or something on there, and we know we.
Is there only supposed to be 3, or these are the ones
Yeah,
parents
we
can
just
help
all
with?
of them,
And then we're gonna that we feel.
I know, I got some truck, I gotta hurry up and serve it.
We added
Exposure to maybe what
more.
Parent diet, for sure. That's all it is.
everybody is access to quality.
Not every parent has the ability to.
That is true. That's a little harder. Yes, they can help with that. We can say
I don't like doing
here's some videos.
They said earlier that you have to put that in. I mean, I think even just try. I mean, it doesn't have to be. That's not something that has to be done a certain way.
So like we've had to like one of them have you do motions? I mean, so, and I think our
If you know it works, so if you have the strategy, you can play with it works.
I would have areas, we would be part of the trustees.
Because that's what my daughter did. That is the way I learned all the way through. And I still got stuff to those things. They're everywhere in my house. From when she was in school. Like other people in my son wrote it down. I'll try not to. Did you say? I'm fixing to. Okay, so I'm going to do that.
What do you think about building capacity? How can you build the capacity of your parents to?
And materials, research are there.
That, the vocabulary thing is what we were talking about doing in our project.
I think the vocabulary one is
Because that's a main one too, right? Like one of our top three.
So we can send those packets or even if it's just, or the Quizlet or the, you
Now we need to or whatever, that we give it to help.
Right, it's been high school. I'm trying to fix them, they're distracted. So does every parent have the ability to do that? Like we talked about yesterday, like one of those parents that work all day. What if their kids are in bed by the time they get home? I don't know, I feel like that's something that you can do some, even if it's just on the weekends, if we're going here for consistency and over, you know, like, I don't know, just
but if they were to say that, by the time they get to the weekend, they should be ready.
ideal, in our opinion.
You know, that would be.
I think this is huge.
But it's visual smart walls though.
Spanner be like, are you hungry?
Right. But if you're keeping it and I can't do it every day, then by the weekend, then you sit down and say, tell me about this. Yeah. But they're supposed to be reading on their level. They read on their level. And you just.
Invested, yeah.
But we have a
We have to give them easy ways that they can figure it out. An easy way would be like, here's an art. I need your child to read this 3 times. So we're building reading stamina because they are having to read through it. And then
Like a dispenser. But I know Dollar Tree.
I just don't know what you're saying.
Because what I'm trying to say, these are the things that the assignment is color this picture, and they want to give a zero right now. So how do I get those pictures?
Well, I mean,
Parent Bible.
Yeah, how do you do that? That's the thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we can say, yes, we're gonna work on purifying it, but that's not
aren't we saying though that this is what, isn't that what this whole class is about? The parents being involved, and they do better if the schools succeed when they're involved. I'm just saying, like, I'm just throwing ideas out there. I can do it with every one of them. I'm just saying.
Huh?
So if she presents, I'm just telling you now, I'm volunteering.
Price rate's better than.
Since she volunteered.
Price has been better.
I
can't prove it, but
None of us belong on
but I will say, yes, but I will say now Baylor does struggle. And it took me sitting down and reading with Baylor to notice that they're so strong. And he does not like to read because Baylor doesn't like not being good at it. Baylor shuts down. So he has to have that motivation. And he has to have this. Because y'all can tell him something all day long, but unless I'm on him saying Baylor, you have to have this for so many reasons. Then he sits down with it and he struggles, and he struggles with me because he trusts me. So when he gets ready to go to y'all, it might not be perfect, and he's going to hold back. But he's got it a little bit more
that's not what I'm saying. I believe this is what I'm saying. How do we take
A strategy, yeah, a strategy.
I think that's we're not taking our teachers.
That is what, yes, the motivation, I mean, like.
So what would we got vocabulary.
I'm giving you ways to do this. Yeah.
So that's the
What else do we need? That's something you can help teach, yeah?
Remember that video that we saw teachers were giving parents readings, and then they showed them how to do the devil's slipper that was on the side. What you can do is so if I have students reading at first grade level, in that folder, that part is
Every week you say that.
That's the thing, yeah.
That had to do with this. So, I mean, am I saying that right? So if it's content where we're inside,
We're just trying to think about the needs of my question. I mean, you've got parents that already have this, I mean, I feel like I'm not the one that really needs to know. It's like parents that maybe don't have the time or don't have the resources or that so how do you get from one to the other? Like, what's the very first step?
Okay, so what do you, let's say that we choose so what you do is you integrate with your special education, and then your special teachers will say, okay, this is what I do with the students that have some difficulty. This is grade level, this is grade level. And I presented 3 strategies to the students. I'm saying, these strategies is working. If you have a great folder,
Does that go back to this?
And this is a simple like parents are going to read like the same passage. I don't know. Right to the children. Comment on that. And then they can make themselves like devices. Exactly.
So we're saying here and here. Right, well, that's, yeah, okay. Yeah, isn't that funny? I have the hardest time making people understand that. Yeah, I want to say everybody in my house. It's just getting it out and getting other people to understand it.
No.
Oh, no, we do good. It's just, I mean, because we are trying to push each other to be like, think about this and think about that.
So, I'll play with it.
Because I didn't realize, because we know that we need to run, we're gonna run it at the airport this afternoon. I didn't bring my high heels. So I was concerned because I was like, they're not going to be able to find me. So I decided that
We almost taped the tripod to the top of her head so you could see it.
All right, so we're going to present. Who would like to be first?
All right, district.
So after looking at our data from ACAP and from iReady and so forth, at the district level, we see that vocabulary is a need and something that our students struggle with. So we saw some that we thought was good. So visuals, having visuals, using graphic organizers, having those pictures, because I may call something a plate and someone else may call it a saucer. So maybe we need to have that for them to see that those things are related. Word walls as well, reading various texts, dictionary, and then we also thought of Google, because a lot of kids don't use a dictionary, but they know there's Google, there's a dictionary in Google. Connections, word to self, because usually we have text to self, but word to self, and then word to world. So, if we're talking about a spatula, having that conversation, having that picture, talking to them about what is a spatula, and then also them going and knowing, oh, well, you know what, my mama used that to make pancakes. So having that connection. We said fluency, background knowledge, and then also word a day, having a vocabulary word a day, an academic vocabulary word, or just, any word, a word that's dealing with their story, a word a day, and then using context clues, understanding true meaning, and having background knowledge are all things that we need for vocabulary. And our 3 things that we said our parents can do at home, and even get the community involved, is having word walls. And I was like, you know what, I never thought about that. My little girl would love to have a word wall in her room, so she can put her words. And I was like, and index cards are only 50 cents. So I can give her some index cards and she can put words, and she would love that because she thinks she's a teacher in her mind, So she thinks she can teach me. So I could tell her, listen, tell me your words that you've been learning. Put them on your word wall, have it in your bedroom, and then you can teach my little 1-year-old, she can teach the baby while she crawling around the room.
And let me tell you, I have a word wall in my office.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, I am an English learner. So there are still a lot of words that are new for me. So every time that I see a word that I don't know, I write it on the sticky note, and I put it on my own.
And we give the kids, part of the school supplies sometimes, can be index cards. But as you're doing the word wall, the teacher doing the word wall in class, all right, now y'all take out an index card, write that word wall down, take it home. And I know they may all not have walls where they can put stuff, but see, there's a place in your home that you can put your area. It doesn't have to go on the wall. It can just go, go somewhere in the home. Refrigerator. If have the refrigerator somewhere you can put. And that can be your own little section.
Mirrors.
In the mirror. Yep.
In the bathroom.
Yes. So another one that we said that parents can do with their students is the word a day. So if we have a word a day, and you have it, if the parents have Class Dojo, if remind, the teacher can send home and say, this is our math word of the day, this is our ELA word of the day, or this is our word of the week. We hope every day they learn a new vocabulary word or word they can use, but definitely a word of the week. And that's something that they can have and implement at home. Hey parents, if you can, practice using this word, spatula. Hey, are you going to use the spatula to make your pancakes or your cookie or whatever,
Something I can suggest too, even for a younger grade level, is if you do have that child that's a slower learner and they do need that one word a week, hey, write that one word, same word every day. If you're giving out an index card for each kid, you're giving everybody else a different word. How many of them are going to pick up on that kid's getting the same word every day?
Yeah.
As opposed to, so you wouldn't have to single them out in that way. Just write that same word again for them. Hey, here's your word for the day.
Yeah, I think about when you said that, I thought about kindergarten, how they have the letters, when they focus on the letter. And so that could be, hey, this is your word to add to your own word wall at home, because we're working on A for apple, all these other words that go with A's. Can you think of another word? Or when you're at home, or while they sit there, can think of another A word that they can bring back to school. And then we had a tie for number 3, because most parents, they do have a cell phone, and they could do Google, and they can be looking up a word and something. I know that for my child, when we were in the car, if I had to go places or travel or do things with my dance team, she would have the flashcards and she'd be playing with them. Well, I could take it the next step. I could have her kids my cell phone, look up this word, find the definition of it, not just knowing it as you're flipping through the cards. So we'll say dictionary Google, and then connections, word to self, and then word to world.
Thank you.
So there's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Perfect. We got some tape on hanging on the wall. Good job.
I have a suggestion for you, and believe me, I don't get any money from iReady. iReady is amazing. It is amazing. Like when I was teaching special ed, I went back to the classroom right away when the pandemic hit us. And I have one student who grew 1 year in 3 months. 1 year. So district, you guys can do if vocabulary is one of your problems at the district level, you guys can do contests. How many hours the schools are doing on vocabulary. How many who is a kid who did more hours at home on practicing vocabulary, and give them prizes. A prize for the school that did more hours, a prize for the students that worked more hours on their iReady. Believe me, it is amazing. It is amazing.
And if they have Class Dojo, they can get Class Dojo points, so we don't have to actually maybe give them a tangible thing, unless we just had something, tangible and incentive, not to get those points, and it's kind of award at the end for their dojo points.
Could you have a night when they take their device home, because, ours don't take theirs home, so they can't do iReady at home.
Okay. Who's next?
You want us to go?
Sure.
So, I'm gonna be honest, 2nd grade, we discovered is 82% deficient in phonics in 2nd grade. So, we were gonna work on phonics. So, we said 2nd grade phonics, and we said sound fluency, they could do sound fluency within a minute. And then flashcards with letters and sounds, word family books, rhyming games and songs, word puzzles, blocks, dictation with phonics skill, nonsense word fluency, and blending board, which we would use in the classroom. Okay. So we decided that some of the things the parents could do is the flashcards, and we said at first, we have 2nd graders that don't know their letters and sounds. Then we could go a little deeper and use blends and digraphs and things like that with those. Then we could train the parents on nonsense words, because a lot of our parents don't understand why they're doing nonsense words. And when we explain it, I did a strip the other day, and when I explained why we do nonsense words for multisyllabic words, she was like, oh. So, and I know right now, one of our already offline tasks for 2nd grade has ship, SHIP. word, they're starting to use those digressions links. So we can train our parents. And then dictation with phonics skill, that the teachers send home the phonics skill, and we can teach them how to do dictation and how to do that, so. We thought those three would be our.
There is a website, it's called sightwords.com. They have a lot of games that like shoots and ladders, a lot of games that you guys can do like in paper, and then parents can play with their children to learn sounds, letters, like, it is amazing.
Hey, my kids love to get on there and see Miss Askew on the videos doing the letters and
The
sounds.
Haggerty.
Yeah.
It is really good. Really
Okay.
good. So those are things that you can give to the parents for them to play with their children.
Okay.
What's next? Good job, guys.
So we were gonna do that, but y'all stole ours. That was our first one, so then we just moved to third grade math as a priority. And we said numbers and operations, and the things that we felt like they needed or lacked, number sense. They didn't have good strategies for addition, good strategies for subtraction. A lot of times the teachers notice they're just uninterested in math. Math's not always at the forefront with the push for literacy. And a lot of times in the home, I'm guilty as a mother, we read, but we're not doing a lot with math. And then lack of exposure to the current program. So we circled the things that we felt like the parents could help with, and then we just put out beside it some of the things that they could do for addition and subtraction strategies, flashcards, games, manipulatives, digital games, and then uninterested, go back to the games, creating relevancy. Like if they're in the kitchen cooking, following the recipe and measuring things out, creating relevancy. In the home, conversations about it, and then prioritizing, if you spend 3 days a week working on reading, make one of those nights a math night.
Questions?
All right, next.
I'm gonna read Johanna Black instead of Anna White.
Okay, so we talked about fifth grade multiplication proficiency because we have 86% of our fifth graders that are not proficient in numbers and operations. So that's a very high number. The things that we thought parents could help with would be insufficient practice at home, help with apathy, lack of basic math skills, parental support in learning, helping if your child has a learning disability, knowing the skills and things to help, retention and recall deficits, helping with motivation and helping with number sense. Those are all the things we thought parents could help with, but the three we focused intently on is motivation, parental support, and insufficient practice at home.
Good job.
And I was telling Chris that if you guys are planning to have these meetings in January, that is a great time because you're gonna have a lot of data and you can sell your parents that sense of urgency. You can tell them, listen, we have 3 months, 3 months only, and we need you. I can do this in 3 months. So sell that sense of urgency, show them data. Like here, like only one student at grade level. You don't really want to know who is. It is a lot, too many, way too many students that are not at grade level. Great job, guys. Next.
All right.
You.
We're motivated today, aren't we? This is day 3. Okay, so one of our the board up there was like, man, it's almost the same thing in 7th and 8th grade. But 7th and 8th graders, we struggle with content-based informational text. And so some of the reasons we talked about was that our students are not able to read on grade level. And so the text that they're being asked to read is even harder because they can't read on grade level. They're lacking background knowledge. they are missing the technical lingo. They don't understand the technical lingo for the subject area. They're missing some reading stamina, motivation to read, exposure, teacher buy-in to get that reading going on in a consistent basis in the school, access to high-quality text for our students. We're missing the parent buy-in to get them to see how important it is that their kids are reading these articles and this informational nonfiction. They're missing the reading strategies to know how to dissect the text so that they can consume it and understand it. We're missing the teacher PD. As we talked about in secondary, we're not all reading teachers. I mean, we are all reading teachers, but we're lacking the strategies to teach reading. And then our kids need exposure to vocabulary and fluency. And so we thought, man, how can our parents help us? So we really talked about how our parent buy-in and our parents can really help give exposure to some of this information. They can help us build background knowledge. If our teachers say, hey, this week, this unit we're studying, sales, here are some videos. Just make sure, like, the parents could just make sure they watch those videos at home to give them that background knowledge that they may need to go in and learn. And so that it makes sense as they're reading. But reading stamina and them not reading on grade level and vocabulary were really our top three that we think parents can help us with. And we discussed utilizing some resources like Newsella because they can levelize the text for us. And our presenters had really great ideas for, at this parent nights presenting, this is how you can help your child if they're below grade level, if they're on grade level, if they're above grade level, here are your strategies. And so no one has to know whose kid is on what level. That's going to be in that information packet they receive along with that supplemental text that parent can help and assist their child with at home.
So you can differentiate. Like
Yes.
if you're going to give them a folder, that folder is going to be at the reading level of that child.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So,
that's it. Thank you.
Yay. All right. Who's next?
Who's last?
She huffed as she stood up.
I put her on the spot. It's my fault.
It's quite all right. We can do this together because my trusty colleagues here will fill in wherever I leave, whatever I may leave out. But anyway, also going back, before I get started to what Ms. Simmons just said about being at the high school level and not having those tools to teach reading because we just don't have it. And then once again, that, makes us feel vulnerable when it starts to trying to talk to parents about how we can assist you in helping us. So once again, without repeating or reiterating, but needing to do so, that we need professional development on that. But we looked at 9th grade vocabulary literacy as one of the things that stood out in our data. We said creating reading groups among the students at school, a reading club, and that we could have special field trips for this group at the end of the year that would encourage students to want to become a part of that, taking them somewhere that they may be interested in, just for joining this club and just for participating fully, having that as an incentive. Then also we said content-specific vocabulary, introducing that to the students, increase volume of reading, making sure that we have a plethora of books in the library that would be interesting to students at that age, incorporate vocab in all content areas. We have done that over the last years at the high school. Everybody had to read for at least 20 minutes in their classes, science, math, everybody. It didn't have to be 20 solid minutes, but reading throughout the class period, totaling 20 minutes is one of the things that we've been doing over the last several years. Also, when we incorporate that, we want to make sure that we don't leave out like our CT
career tech, thank you, career tech classes, because we have a lot of students now, and especially in our career tech classes, they're really beginning to take off and to grow. So we have a lot of different students that are performing in those areas. So we want to make sure we include the whole student body. Establish reading mentors where, and the students could also gain community service hours, meeting the Wildcat Challenge by being a part of that. And when we establish these reading mentors, we have students that could read to their siblings, their neighbors, their cousins, their church members, anyone, you know, and the parents could really help us to reinforce that. Family collaboration, where if we could get the parents to sign on with us and say that you're going to dedicate at least 30 minutes to an hour reading every week, and we want you to split that time in half with your child. Let your child read 15 minutes, you read 15 minutes. Have a partnership between the parents and the children. And then lastly, we had Shades and Meaning, which means Battle of Books, and Ms. Brooks, explain that.
Okay. Well, shades of meaning we were talking about, going over the importance of what a word means and the depth that it has. Like, I can say I'm happy, but if I say I'm ecstatic, that means that has two different connotations. So really having the kids relate to that. With that, we also talked about the cultural clauses. Like, for example, I remember when I had a roommate in college, I said, do you need a buggy when I was in the store? And she really fell out because she called it a shopping cart. And then she mentioned about someone at a hotel calling down and asking for a bath rag. And they had no idea what she was talking about. So some of those.
So it's a bath cloth.
So some of those things we see in our literature and on our test. As much as they try to be equitable, they're not always. So doing some of those things, not only is it funny, but it's also good learning. And then we've talked about bringing in Battle of the Books. If you're not familiar with that, look into it. It's really awesome. So as another kind of way to, we got a lot of competitive people, so let's put it to some good stuff.
And then in bringing, when we were talking about the different things culturally, that will help our students with standardized testing, because as much as, you know, some say that those tests are not swayed, they are, because, you know, it goes back to when you ask one child, you know, what sound does a dog make? One's going to say bow wow, and the other one's going to say roof roof. So those are cultural differences that we can help our children with, and then that will also help give them a better chance when they take these standardized testing, you know, to help with money, getting into school, ACT scores, and so forth and so on. And another thing, the last thing that we came up with is having something fun for our students at school. Math Monday, Word Wednesday, Fun Friday, which would be incorporated through our devices, where we would put out a math problem on Mondays and give all the students an opportunity to answer it, and then send their answers back in, like on a Google form, and then we would have a drawing for everyone who entered, and we would have something specific, because we have, I know like Dairy Queen and a couple other places gave us coupons years ago, and we could have something like that to give to them and encourage them to participate in that. So like I said again, Math Monday, Word Wednesday, and then Fun Friday would be something, not necessarily academically, but something that everybody would feel like they would like to participate in. The three things that we selected as the top things that our parents could help us with is creating a reading club, and that's where we have our students reading books that are specific to the things that they're interested in. Establishing reading mentors where they read with their siblings, neighbors, so forth and so on. And then also the family collaboration where the students and the parents read together.
All right, so it is time to go to lunch. Yeah. 12:32. 12:32. Great. Good job, guys.
Did you come back from